As chair of this subcommittee, I look forward to everyone's positions, comments, and suggestions on the bills to be considered. Moreover, I anticipate that as we work together, we will build a better future for our children and our communities. Before I end, I would like to thank the chairman of the Senate Committee on Higher, Technical, and Vocational Education, Senator Chis Escudero, for designating me as the subcommittee chairman to tackle all these ROTC bills. Maraming salamat at magandang umaga again sa ating lahat. Senator Win Gatchalian, your opening statement. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for conducting this hearing, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just want to manifest and also inform the body that my original proposal was to reinstitute ROTC at the senior high school level. In fact, a few bills were passed, a few bills were submitted to the Basic Education Committee, which I chair. 5 bills were filed in the Basic Education Committee. I think that includes also the bill of Senator Francis Tolentino. And the basic intention of those bills is to bring back our ROTC at the senior high school level. Senior high school level meaning kids who are attending school age 16, 17, and 18. But Mr. Chair, I would like to stress that there are a lot of events that led to my reconsideration of reinstituting ROTC at the senior high school level and bringing it back instead at the college level. And let me show some slides, Mr. Chairman, on why I decided to reconsider and instead reinstitute it at the college level. Number one is COVID-19. No? Mr. Chairman, COVID-19 has damaged our basic education system. And in fact, it created a lot of complication in terms of learning outcomes. And let me just show a slide on the proficiency levels of senior high school graduates conducted by DepEd using their basic education exit assessment. If you can see from this slide, and this is pre-pandemic level, hindi pa ho tumatama dito ang COVID-19. You can see that on the average, the proficiency level of our senior high school students in science, math, language is around the 30s level. Meaning at 30s level, ang category nila low proficient. So even prior to the pandemic, our senior high school students are already ranking at the low proficient level in math, science, and language, meaning English, no? In short. Definitely, Mr. Chairman, the pandemic will create a lot of damage in the proficiency levels of our senior high school students. I don't see a scenario wherein the pandemic will elevate the proficiency levels of our senior high school students. We don't have the numbers yet. The DepEd is conducting the rapid assessment for all levels, but I'm already expecting that these numbers will go down at the very least. Next is the World Bank conducted a survey or a assessment on reading. No? And this is what they call the learning poverty estimates of the World Bank. And this assessment is conducted among 10-year-old students. Basically, what this is saying, during the pandemic, 90% of our students cannot read basic stories. And let me just point out, this is 10-year-old kids in our basic education system. So if they cannot read at age 10, obviously it will also have an impact when they go up the ladder in junior high school and also in senior high school. So just goes to show that COVID-19 did a lot of damage when it comes to the academics of our students. The number 2 reason, Mr. Chairman, is when we conducted 2 hearings. In fact, when I was the during the 17th and the 18th Congress, we conducted 2 hearings on ROTC at the senior high school level. We requested the DND to submit to us a budget, no, their estimated budget. Right now, we have 0 ROTC in our senior high school level. So reinstituting them will need a lot of budget, no? So we asked them for a budget estimate, and their submission to us that it will cost about slide 3, 9.2 billion pesos in terms of budget to reinstitute ROTC at the senior high school level. And our friends from the DND can elaborate on this later on. So in other words, at this present time of trying to reduce budget deficit, trying to allocate funds to improve our school system, 9.2 billion is quite a hefty sum, no, to reinstitute ROTC from 0, no, in our senior high school level. So in other words, starting from scratch will cost you about 9.2 billion pesos. The third one, reason, Mr. Chair, and this is actually a bit of good news, no? After the implementation of the free college tuition, meron na tayong free college tuition po we saw a improvement in terms of senior high school students graduating, senior high school students moving to the college level. If you remember, one of the arguments in reinstituting it at the senior high school level is because we want to capture all senior high school students, no? But data is showing that almost on average, 81% of our students are already moving from senior high school to college. Halos lahat na ho yan, Mr. Chair, no? So we're just talking about 19%, so about 180,000 students who are not moving from senior high school to college. I would like to discuss that later on what to do with that 180,000 students who are not moving to college. But in summary, because of the free higher education, we are seeing encouraging signs of students students having interest moving to college. And in fact, they're moving to college kasi wala na silang binabayaran na tuition fee, Mr. President. So this is an encouraging number because we are now seeing more students going into college. But bearing in mind, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, that if you look at the entire system, no, from grade 1 to senior high school, it's actually not as encouraging as I want, Mr. Chairman. We saw that the cohort survival from grade 1 all the way to grade 12 is only 51%. So yung mga pumapasok po sa grade 1, kalahati lang po ang nagagraduate sa senior high school. No? This is actually a much pressing problem to solve by DepEd and also by our country because in our estimate, about 1.4 million students drop out of our system. Meaning if they go into grade 1, only 1.4 million students do not graduate senior high school. No? So this is actually a much more pressing problem that we need to solve as a country dahil maraming nagda-drop out along the way. But I also want to throw this to the committee and put this on the table because these students, even though they drop out, obviously they will turn 18. And the system, the ROTC, mandatory ROTC in college will not capture them because by mandating ROTC to college students, and obviously 1.4 million students are not moving into college, those 1.4 million students will not undertake mandatory ROTC. So these are the things that we need to think about because if we want ROTC to be universal, meaning lahat po ng 18-year-old dapat mag-train, then 1.4 million students are not being trained by with ROTC. So something to think about by the committee. Maybe we can look at RA 7077, the Reservist Act. I think that's a law that can address this cohort survival issue, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, in summary, those are the 3 reasons why I reconsidered my proposal to reinstate it at the senior high school level and instead reinstate it at the college level, because the college level, it's already there. No? Through the NSTP, they're already being trained. Those who want to be trained with ROTC are already being trained. So we just need to expand it. So by expanding it, obviously, we also need the budget to do that. And those are the things that we can discuss here at the committee level. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to explain my rationale for reconsidering my original proposal.
Thank you, Your Honor, Senator Rawin Gatchalian, the chairman of the Basic Education Committee. You are, by doing that, you are making our life easier in this subcommittee in tackling all these bills. You know, you make it easier at the same time, making it more because you open the gates about those who are not going to uh, progress to grades 12. So, from a very idealist point of view, they become wasted resources as far as defense of this country is concerned. Hindi sila madidevelop, di ba? So you are adding another problem to this. Thank you, thank you. Anyway, we will subject that to another discussion. Maybe we will amend the Reservist Act by making it mandatory. Yeah, Reservist Act, gawin natin mandatory para lahat ng hindi pumunta sa college ay makapag-undergo ng parang semi-conscription. Conscription ang gagawin. Anyway, I will tackle that in another time. But as I have said to you yesterday, we have to break this to them gently. Dandahanin mo natin, unahin mo natin yung college. Pag okay na yung college, nakita nila, wala pala problema eh. Yung kinatakutan ninyo na hising sa ROTC, kinatakutan nyo na corruption sa ROTC, magandang management ng DND at ng CHED sa program na ito, hindi na kayo dapat matakot. So, again, breaking it to them gently hanggang ma-capture natin yung buong population ng Filipino youth. Thank you, Your Honor, for that suggestion. From here, I would like to give the floor to Senator Francis Tolentino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And by the way, before you start, I think you're already informed that your missing proposal landed in the committee of Senator Gatchalian. Hindi pa yan na-refer dito. Siguro, I don't know, you know what to do na lang para madala dito. Let's ask the Committee on Rules. Paano yan dalhin dito? Meron din ako. Nandun din sa committee mo, di ba, Mr. Chairman? Nandun sa committee niya. But nag-file na rin ako ng panibago para dito, para two-prong attack. Dalawang committee, natake natin para siguruhin natin may balik ang ROTC. Senator Tolentino, please, you have the floor, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I respect the opinion of the good chairman of the Committee on Basic Education. So that would lead me to retool my first bill, which is quite different from the other bills because mine would include police training. Because years ago, before some of you were not yet born, the Philippine Constabulary was part of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. So my version would include police training similar to what Malaysia has been doing. So we will refile, Your Honor, but I was just surprised with the figures given by our good friend Senator Gatchalian. From 57%, those entering senior high would be 51% because of the pandemic. And I'm trying to reconcile this with the figures given by the Philippine Statistics Authority, Mr. Chairman, during the budget hearing, which is quite a revelation to me and other members of the Senate concerning the downturn and the abrupt drop in unemployment because of, to quote the Philippine Statistics Authority, and you can browse the records, the reason being is that most of those working at home during the pandemic, during the lockdown, opted to go to college this semester and the previous semester. So that accounted for the abrupt spike in college students according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. So if we try to reconcile the figures provided by Senator Gatchalian and the Philippine Statistics Authority, I don't know their modeling formula, perhaps there is a good reason to buttress the claim of Senator Gatchalian that ROTC should perhaps land in the laps of the higher education system. So, Mr. Chairman, I will file another bill, perhaps today, for ROTC, but with that modification that police training should be included. I had several guests yesterday. Hindi na nakadaan sa iyo, Senator De La Rosa, the entire academe hierarchy of the PNPA. No, kaya hindi na ako naka-attend ng adjournment natin na napatagal na ako doon sa pag-uusap doon sa curriculum nila. Sabi ko sa kanila, sana si Senator Bato na lang yung pinuntahan nyo. Hindi tuloy ako nakababa. So I will refile today, but Mr. Chair, permit me to leave for a few minutes because I have to attend the Commission on Appointments. But I will be back. I will be back before you adjourn because I have something to say concerning the what were the words that you mentioned? Softly breaking. Ano yun? Killing me softly. Paano ba yun?
Breaking
Breaking
it to them gently.
gently. I have
Break
some
it to them gently.
I have some expanded version of breaking them gently, and I think I will be joined by J9 in this endeavor. So babalik po ako, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Your Honor, Senator Tolentino. By the way, yung sinabi mong bill na different yung sa'yo, baka attune din yun sa aking version because sa'yo nga, PNP lang ang concern mo. Sa akin, sinama ko yung Coast Guard, yung BGMP, yung Bureau of Fire. Meron na rin silang reserve force na isama natin. Try to visit my version. Makita mo. Thank you,
Copy,
Your
Your
Honor. Thank you. So, from here, balik ka ha? Oh, thank you. From here, let's give the floor to Senator Robin Hood Padilla, another author of these bills that we are tackling today.
Magandang umaga po, mahal naming pinakamatigas na senador po, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, Idol, magandang umaga po. At sa atin pong pinakamatalino na senador, kapag kontra yata ito sa akin namamatay mag-isa. Ang atin pong hinahangaan na Senator Win Gatchalian, magandang umaga po. At lumabas na yung pinakamagaling din magsalita, Senator Tolentino, magandang umaga po. At sa lahat po ng mga kapatid namin senador online, magandang umaga po. At sa lahat po ng ating mga bisita, isang maganda at maaliwalas na umaga po sa inyo. Ako po ay meron din pong bill patungkol po dito sapagkat ako po ay naniniwala dito sa ROTC. Pwede ko po ba itong basahin na ating idol?
Yes, go ahead. You have the floor, Your Honor.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sa ating pong mahal na tagapangulo ng pandinig na ito, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, sa mga kapwa po natin senador na naririto ngayon, sa mga panauhin po ngayong umaga. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Hindi pa man po ako senador ng Republika, ay nasa kamalayan na po ng inyong lingkod ang pagnanais na maibalik ang Reserve Officers Training Corps bilang requirement sa undergraduate degree o diploma program sa pampubliko at pribadong tertiary level na paaralan. Kung kaya naman isa po sa mga pinakaunang panukalang batas na inihain ng inyong lingkod ay ang Senate Bill number 236 o ang Mandatory Reserve Officers Training Corps Act. Sa ilalim ng panukalang batas, ang basic ROTC program ay magkakaroon ng training sa mga sumusunod. Una, external and territorial defense. Hindi naman po kaila sa atin ang mga kinaharap na bantang panlabas ng ating bansa, bunsod ng tunggalian, pagdating sa hangganan ng ating mga karagatan sa dagat kanluran ng Pilipinas. Gayun din, mga tensyong geopolitikal na nagaganap sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo na hindi man direkta ay may mga implikasyong hindi nating maaaring ipagwalang bahala bilang isang bansa. Naniniwala ako na nararapat lamang na maihanda natin ang ating mga kabataan upang matiyak ang seguridad ng Estado sa oras ng hingin nito ng pagkakataon. Pangalawa, kasanayan sa internal security, peace and order, and public safety. Ang inyong lingkod ay buhay na saksi sa napakaraming panloob na banta sa seguridad at kaligtasan sa pang-araw-araw na buhay ng mga Pilipino. Pagdating sa mga issue sa law and order, armed conflict, banta ng terorismo, at iba pang transnational crimes. Kinakailangan natin ang mas maigting na puwersa upang hindi maging balakid ang mga ito sa ating kapayapaan at kaunlaran. Pangatlo, pagsasanay sa disaster risk reduction and management. Tulad ng aking nabanggit noon, malaki ang maitutulong ng disiplinado, nagkakaisang paggalaw sa pagtugon sa mga kalamidad na halos naging pangkaraniwan na sa ating bansa. Hangad natin na magkaroon ng organisadong grupo na aalalay sa pamahalaan upang sumagip ng buhay sa panahon ng sakuna. Panghuli, kasanayan sa human rights and humanitarian law. Isa po ito sa naiibang sangkap ng panukalang batas na ating hinihain dito sa mataas na kapulungan. Naniniwala ang inyong lingkod na magiging napakahalagang sangkap po ng Mandatory Reserve Officers Training Corps ang kaalaman sa pagtataguyod ng karapatang pantao, kaalinsabay ng pagsasanay para sa ating National Defense Program. Nais po nating linawin na exempted sa programa ang mga physically or mentally unfit to render military service and persons with disability at mga na-convict sa criminal offenses involving moral turpitude. Aray ko po, meron na po akong absolute pardon. Accepted din ang mga may issue dahil sa pananampalataya at mga dumaan na sa similar military training from a previous undergraduate degree or diploma program. Bilang alternatibo sa mga exemptions na ito, ay naglagay din po tayo ng probisyon tungkol sa programa sa Special National Service Training na binubuo ng mga sumusunod: Literacy Training Service Program, Civic Welfare Training Service Program, Emergency Life Support Training Service Program, Search and Rescue Training Program, at ang pinakahuli na ito po ang issue sa ngayon, ang ating pong idinagdag sa ating bersyon, ang Community Service for Drug Rehabilitation. Bilang pangwakas, nakasaad sa mismong saligang batas ang tungkuling itanim sa mga kabataan ang pagkamakabayan at nasyonalismo. Gayon din ang paghikayat sa kanilang pakikilahok sa mga gawaing pampubliko at sibiko. Dahilan po ito, hangad ko ang isang malaya at produktibong talakayan sa ating pagdinig ngayong umaga. Maraming salamat po, mahal na tagapangulo. Aba, itutuloy ko na po. Oh, si ikaw yata ang vice chairman nito. Habang wala pa po ang ating mahal na tagapangulo, meron po tayong isang problema ngayon eh. Yung pong patungkol sa kulang tayo sa nurses. Dapat siguro isama na rin natin yun. Oo, no? Mahal na tagapangulo, natapos na po ako. Aba.
Thank you, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Attorney Spooky for Roland of CHED. Attorney. Thank you. And also, Yusik Ronald Cardema the nemesis of uh, people who are anti nation building. Thank you, thank you. From here, pwedeng unahin muna natin yung CHED for the presentation kasi according to them, meron daw silang pinagbuong united effort sa lahat ng mga agencies involved dito sa ROTC, i-present nila yung kanilang version. So, are you ready, Yusek?
Sir, Director lang, sir.
Ay, sige lang.
Thank you for the promotion, but it's on the director.
Sige lang. Okay.
Sir, Attorney Spocky Farolan I'm the Head of Legal and Legislative Service of the Commission on Higher Education. What we actually do have with the indulgence and of course, in due recognition of the other agencies involved, especially the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, the DND, the AFP, TESDA, and I think DepEd was also present in the meeting, and other agencies who were part of the consultation conducted and organized by the PLLO. As of yesterday, after a long series on a series of discussions, we actually have come up with a compromise bill, consensus. We would rather call it, kasi we'd rather use the term consensus. A consensus bill for that would more or less capture the intent of our president, which when he mentioned in his SONA reforming the NSTP law as we have right now, and the return of a program similar to the ROTC, which will focus on the RRM and other civic duty related concerns. And what we have right now, I've provided a copy to the member of your office staff. I don't know if we're going to present it on the screen. If we're going to, but before being presented on the screen, Your Honor, we could give you a brief summary of the content, just the salient points. It will be the bill actually will be institutionalizing, if passed, a 2-year mandatory National Citizen Service Training Program in tertiary education. When we say tertiary education, it includes higher education, so baccalaureate degrees, and other post-secondary courses which are offered by TESDA, but would cover only those which extend up to 2 years at least. So yung mga TESDA trainings po na from 2 years onwards, kasi may mga 3-year TESDA programs din po, would be students under it would be covered by this program, that's NCST. But there is a provision in this proposal that special seminars would also be conducted. Special citizen service seminars and programs would be developed, formulated, and designed to also ensure that those who are taking up TESDA courses or training courses which are less than 2 years, especially those taking up the NC2 courses, would also be subjected to some sort of training or orientation in our citizen service program, and they will eventually also be they can be part of our pool of volunteers and human resource when it comes to national emergency or any national need. So it would be a 2-year program offered in the tertiary education, but there will be a 4-year optional ROTC program. The 4-year optional ROTC program, it would all really be geared towards producing officers for the regular and reserve force. Of course, for the conversion of the officers into regular force, for regular commission, there would be other requirements as the DND or AFP may prescribe. But the concept would be having a 4-year ROTC course. So we didn't make any distinction between a basic ROTC, advanced ROTC, unlike before. Now, the ROTC program is a 4-year program. So it's really designed to make officers for our reserve citizen armed force. Then the curriculum for our National Citizen Service Training would be developed by a NCST technical panel, which would be multi-agency with representatives from private relevant national organizations, which would design and periodically update the curriculum. But the focus of the curriculum, and we do have a list of the subjects, of the proposed subjects for it, would be on practical and truly useful competencies and skills in civic duty, individual survival and safety skills, mass/community emergency and disaster response and management, and citizen soldier training. So in those 2 years, the the student, the trainee, or what we call the citizen cadet, as we would call those who would undergo the NCST, would undergo training that would be both military and non-military. They would be subjected to the skills, individual skills, which would be useful for them even in time, in peacetime, or especially in times of emergencies and disasters. Once they graduate from the 2-year program, so both male and female students would be covered under this. Once they finish the 2-year course, they will be issued 2 serial numbers. It will be a dual registration system. They would be registered under the National Service Reserve Corps, which is an existing aggregation right now under the OCD, which would be in charge of their mobilization for non-combat and non-military activities. But they will also be issued serial numbers for the AFP, Citizens Armed Force, because they will also be deemed as members of the Citizens Armed Force, or what we refer also as the AFP Reserve Force, and they will be given military serial numbers for military or combat purposes deployment, Your Honors. So once they are registered, the deployment, the monitoring of the training would be done by a national citizen service training monitoring and oversight committee, which would be chaired by CHED, vice chaired by the DND, with members coming from TESDA, the NYC, the DSWD, the DILG, and 2 representatives from relevant national organizations to ensure that all complaints are also attended to, that there will be no abuses, that inspections are conducted, surprise inspections especially, and all other possible abuses are immediately investigated, with the power to call on agencies to compel agencies to conduct investigation necessary to ensure that none of the evils that we saw in the previous programs are experienced, or at least they are prevented or immediately addressed, Mr. Chair. Essentially, that's the coverage of the program. As you would see, it covers generally the training of the program. We saw the importance of making sure that we touch on the training, which is the primary purpose of this program, ensuring a citizen service training program that will ensure that to give life to that spirit, to the provision of the Constitution, which gives the state the power and authority to call upon its citizens to render personal military or personal civil service. So, ang takbo po nito, sir, we're running on the principle that if the government or if the state is going to use this provision of the Constitution, it has also the responsibility to ensure that the proper training is provided our youth, if they are going to be utilized by the state for this. And at the same time, it should be something that is relevant. And the focus here is more on voluntarism rather than being than the mandatory nature of the provision on citizen service, Mr. Chair. That's a broad description of the provisions of the program. This consensus bill is a product of an assessment and review of existing legislation and proposals also passed. We have taken into consideration the need also, as mentioned, by the need of other agencies. Where do we get, for example, the PNP Auxiliary, Coast Guard Auxiliary? They are actually non-military, so they can actually form part of the programs that can be devised by the Office of Civil Defense or the NDRRMC through the Office of Civil Defense in the mobilization of our, what we call the National Service Reservists, the NSRs. So we have 2 kinds of reservists. So isang tao po can be an NSR, a National Service Reservist, for non-military and non-combat deployment. And they are also citizen soldiers, which is the proper term used in Republic Act 077 for military deployment, sir. So that is all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Smokey Farulan. Hindi ko pa nabasa itong kasi ngayon lang binigay sa akin itong version ninyo, pero I just would like to be clarified. The term mandatory andyan pa rin. Mandatory to all
It is-
tertiary level students before they can graduate the course.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is a provision ensuring that this is mandatory to all our students, all male and female students. In fact, under this law, we don't actually give exemptions. When in other bills, they exempted those who are PWDs, those who are with disabilities, or those who were one of the concerns raised by our good Senator, Senator Padilla, those who were convicted of by final judgment. We have removed all exceptions, but the colatilla is that they will undergo a special NCST program designed for them based on their special needs. So even those who we are not leaving out anyone. No one is left behind when it comes to serving the country and the state and the people, Mr. Chair.
So thank you. Thank you very much. Tama-tama yan because yung religions na nagbabawal sa kanilang mga tao na humawak ng baril at makipaglaban, they can opt for that yung sa disaster preparedness program or how do you call it. Maganda po yun. So, tama yun na wala exemption. So thank you for that, Director Parolan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next, may we hear from DND?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and distinguished senators and other members of this committee. Yes, sir, we fully, at the Defense Department, we fully agree with the quotation that you had regarding preparedness. And we also believe that if you love peace, you have to prepare to defend it. And peace is not only disrupted by armed conflict, but also by natural disaster. And the consensus bill that we are proposing has actually captured all the spirits of the law that was, or the bills that were passed by all the good senators. And personally, from the Defense Department, would like to thank all the senators that have filed the bills reinstituting the ROTC in its and on its form. So the consensus bill that Director Parolan just mentioned is a conglomeration of all the good features of all the filed Senate bill and created a consensus that would capture all the spirit of the bill, sir, para walang maiiwan. So yung pinopropose namin ngayon, sir, is a consolidation of all the bills. Just to explain a little bit more regarding dun sa tertiary level, sir, there is the 2-year course is intended to generate the reserve force. Ito po yung mga sundalo, mobilizable po in terms of emergencies and in times of war. Yung pong 4-year course are for those people who are intending to join the officers corps in the future. Kaya po siya 4 years course. Bali, there we have 2 tracks, one for the first 2 years, first and second year. These are for the reserve component ng mga sundalo na hindi walang plano mag-official later on. And a 4-year course, this is mandatory ROTC na pwede natin tawagin mandatory ROTC. Now, after they graduate from the 4-year course, na part ng ROTC, they would be commissioned as reserve officer in the reserve force. And if they want to join the regular force, they would have to undergo a selection and a pre-deployment training. And that would qualify them to become regular officer. Wala na po yung distinction ngayon na regular at saka yung reserve. So kahit galing po na ROTC, once you intend to become part of the active service, you undergo yung selection and the pre-training and you would become a regular officer of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. So yung pong intent natin to have a mobilizable citizen ready for any contingencies and a source of officer for the Armed Forces of the Philippines are captured in the consensus bill that we are proposing. And just to complete the picture, sir, the DND in our, with the indulgence of DepEd, with your permission, sir, may I discuss yung napag-usapan natin, sir, regarding sa grades 11 and 12. Sir. Sa grades 11 and 12, sir, it will not be, there will be a program that would prepare our 11s and 12 for the ROTC or for the military training that they would undergo when they go into the tertiary. So the intent of the 11 and 12 is not to really create child soldiers like what the critics are saying, that if we institute ROTC in the 11s and 12, we are creating child soldiers. So the program would be for the 11s and 12 is a sort of a citizenship development training that would introduce to the 11s and 12 how to become a good citizen, how to follow law. There would be subject on, it's like a Boy Scout sort of training. There would be drug awareness, community service, a little bit of survival skill. And the only military portion of this is focused on the military history of the Philippine military that is intently focused po on the role of the youth during times of emergency and during times of conflict. So we would be discussing as part of the military history or those role of the youth during World War II, like, for example, the war classes of PMA, where the first and second year cadet went to Bataan, the yearlings and the fourth classmen were disbanded, but they went on to fight, creating the Hunters ROTC guerrilla. So these are the youth that fought for the country when the time that they were needed. So, and the highlight of the program for the grades 11 and 12 is a visit to our battle sites, like in Mount Samat, where a veteran, a 93-year-old veteran, if he's still able, he would relate when he was 16 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, he fought for the country during that time. The intent of the program for the 11 and 12 is to prepare the youth to become good citizen and instill nationalism that would instill in them that the idea that they have a role to play in the defense of the country in terms of disaster and in times of war, so that when they undergo the ROTC training, whether it is the 2 years or the 4-year course, they will be prepared passionately. Kumbaga, ready po yung puso nila at kaisipan nila na hindi ito pahirap itong ROTC na to, but ito ay katungkulan o responsibilidad ko bilang isang mamamayang Pilipino ipagtanggol ang Pilipinas sa anumang pagkakataon sa sakunaman o sa panahon ng digmaan. So generally po, yung from 11 and 12 hanggang tertiary is na-cover po natin yung essence ng mga final po na Senate bill ng ating mga magigiting na mga senador para buhayin po yung ROTC. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, thank you. Alam nyo, yung during our time, di ba? Before ka mag-college, yung fourth year high school ka, meron tayong C80. Citizens Army Training. Then, pag-college mo, saka ka mag-ROTC. Pero tanong ko lang din sa version ninyo, since parang binigyan nyo ng leeway, yung isang estudyante na pwedeng mag-focus siya sa military training or sa, ano yung isa? Yung sa disaster preparedness ba yun?
Ay yung sa what we call it civil defense.
Civil defense.
And other non-military, non-combat activities, Mr. Chair.
Pero yung 2 years na yan, doon sila pwede maghiwalay?
If I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. Actually, in the 2-year program, everybody would go through it. So everyone will be trained to be civil servants. Everyone will be trained to be soldiers. So the state under this NCST program bibigay sa iyo lahat ng pwede mong matutunan na practical skills, including swimming, survival and rescue swimming.
Okay, got it.
But after those 2 years, if you want to pursue being an officer in the military, pwede ka po yung ROTC, the optional ROTC.
Thank
Or
you.
pwede rin, sir, na i-ano ko lang, sir, na under the NSRC also, pwedeng magkaroon ng tie-up ang OCD with the Philippine Coast Guard, PNP, BJMP, to produce other possible avenues for the development of officers in those agencies, Mr. Chair.
So thank you for that clarification. Dahil nga, just to allay the fears of those yung mga diehard na ROTC talaga na baka sabihin nila na, oh, yung version ninyo, nawawala yung ROTC. Terminology lang yung pinalit natin. So, okay.
We
Tingnan mo
prefer the
sila
use.
yung mga retired generals natin, oh. Nag-iisip sila, nandito kami para sa ROTC, tapos nawawala yung ROTC. Yun, tama yun. Very good, very good explanation.
We prefer the use of the term citizen soldiers.
Citizen soldiers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Attorney Farulan. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Bongo. You have a opening statement later. Thank you. So next, we would like to listen to Armed Forces. You want to say something, AAP?
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, actually, we are aligned with what Yusek Madriaga said. Kasi naging consensus bill discussion naman po yung nangyari, sir. And na-capture naman din yung sa AFP, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hindi tayo pwede magkakaroon ng defense establishment na hindi aligned, di ba? Dapat align kayo. Otherwise, basi-masi kayo after basin review. Thank you. Salamat. Would like to hear from Attorney Gilbert Raymond Rieser, the UP Vanguard Incorporated Chairman Emeritus, UP Vanguard. Sir, you have the floor. We want to hear from you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Padilla, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, and the Honorable Chair. Actually, we've gone through all of these suggestions, and the biggest input that we express elation over from the 17th and 18th Congress is now there is no raging dispute of where to lodge the ROTC. There was so much discussion over grades 11 and 12, and as very ably discussed by Senator Gatchalian, there are in fact also compelling reasons that for us to now, with the changing circumstances, to more seriously consider tertiary education as the situs for the citizen service training. Now, in all of these, in all of the bills, no, by Senator Padilla, by Senator Estrada, and Senator De La Rosa, they all basically espouse three basic concepts. The first one, of course, is that it is not all about military preparedness or territorial defense. It is just as important that these students, our youth, learn the skills necessary for immediate in-place deployment in case of disaster. A disaster will happen more certainly than an invasion from whatever country. The last one, of course, is peace and order. There is so much in our streets right now that call for the involvement of the youth in peace and order situations without being police. The PNP has its job, and I think as the Director General of the PNP, Senator Bato knows exactly what I mean. But there are matters that the deployment of a reserve component, or even just students deployed under this training can be used, can be very useful to the country. And because of this, the citizen service program needs to capture all of these three into one. So that at the end of the day, anyone who undergoes the citizen service training program is equipped completely to be able to act as in disasters, peace and order, and military if necessary. Now we mentioned this because this is the nature of the much has been said about, no, especially because the famous BTS band in Korea, no, yung mga yan, they went into military service. But that is the model in those countries because they're basically in a state of war in times of peace. No, the demilitarized zone in Korea and the Israelites in Israel, they need it. But we don't necessarily need that. No? Yes, there are irritants in certain areas of the country in the South China Sea, but we don't really need to prepare exactly just for that. What we need is actually to have our citizens ready to help. No, when the undoys come and when earthquakes come, And more importantly, when there are civil unrest, no? Kanina nabanggit po yung terrorism. While that is also a law and order problem, terrorism is very special. And you don't need the military to come into that. That is not a military action. By its nature, it is not military unless you're fighting it as unconventional.
Uh, in the universal police parlance, it is a law enforcement problem, not a military problem. Anywhere you go in the world, they say it's not a military problem. That's a law enforcement problem, police problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Exactly, sir. So,
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Opo.
Go ahead, Senator Robin Hood Padilla.
Singit lang po ako. Nagiging terrorism problem po to kasi sa recruitment. Kapag hindi po natin na ihanda yung ating mga kabataan na sila po magmahal sa kanilang bayan at sila po dapat magserbisyo ng voluntaryo sa kanilang bayan, may pag-asa po ito na ma-recruit ng mga terorista. Nakita na po natin yan sa Marawi at nakikita po natin yan nagagawa ng mga teroristang komunista. At,
Exactly. I agree with you, Your Honor.
Opo, katulad din po kanina, madagdag ko lang po. Sorry po, naputol ko po kayo, sir. UP Vanguard, tagahanga niyo po ako. Ang kapatid ko po dating ganyan, maganda yung sombrero niya. Opo. Sinusuot ko pa yun, pag naglalaro ako, nagagalit siya. Kinakatok ako, tigas nun eh. Ginawa mong paglaruan yan. Sabi niya, naalala ko lang po. Nabanggit lang po kanina. Sorry po, Mr. Chairman, yun ko lang po. Baka po pwede po na idagdag po ni Undersecretary Ignacio Madriaga. Kasi nung ako po ay nasa Philippine Army Strategic Communication, napag-usapan po namin dati yung paghukay pa ng kasaysayan ng ating mga bayaning kabataan. Kaya po ako naatasan nun na gumawa ng isang dokumentaryo na patungkol po sa Katipunan. Na yaan din po ang insinya ng ating Philippine Army, ng ating armed forces po, insinya ng Katipunan, na huwag nating hayaan na itong ating mga bayani ng Katipunan ay makuha, kunin ng kalaban. Kailangan ito ariin natin sapagkat ang Katipunan, iyan po ang continuation ng ating armed forces. At kaya po sana, sir, mailagay din po natin na wag, alam ko po ROTC kasi ROTC ang pangalan, may kinalaman sa World War II. Opo, pero sana mas hukayin niyo pa po ng ating mga bayani, katulad po nila Emilio Jacinto, mga kabataan po yan, Gregorio del Pilar, talagang mga bata po yan na talagang naniwala po sa pagtatanggol ng ating bansa. At wag po tayong hayaan natin na i-claim siya ng mga terorista na sila ay doon nakabahagi. Hindi po tayo dapat pumayag. Dapat po ipaglaban natin na ang Katipunan, ang nagtutuloy po niyan ngayon ay ang Armed Forces of the Philippines. Yun lamang po, sir. Maraming salamat po, Chairman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Alam ko yung pinaghuhugutan mo. Alam natin na kapag mahina ang ROTC program ng isang universidad, tuwang-tuwa yung mga taga-kaliwa dahil sila ang libreng-libre na nagre-recruit ng mga kabataan doon, hindi yung ating armed forces. So I agree with you, definitely. I would like to acknowledge the presence of Senator J.B. Ercito. Sir, you want to deliver your opening statement? Then we will go back to you, sir. Please, pakinggan mo natin si
Mr. Chairman.
Senator JB dahil commission appointment ito, pupunta dito, babalik agad doon sa CA. Please, you have the floor, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody, to our my colleagues, resource persons. Tama kayo, meron po kaming CA ngayon, but in fact, I am one of those who filed also this bill on ROTC because, Mr. Chair, I'm proud to say that I'm a product of the ROTC. No, hindi po ako nagpa-exempt nung college. I undertook 2 years of training. Kahit na tatay ko nung senador na nag-vice president, pwede ako magpa-exempt, pero hindi po. I took the training seriously, kahit na nagbilyad tayo sa Fort Bonifacio, sa field ng De La Salle noon. And I think that experience really helped me. I think it really helped me mold me for what I am today. Instill discipline, instill the patriotism. Iba po yung may bandera ka sa iyong dibdib at o kaya nasa iyong balika, sa iyong braso. Iba yung pakiramdam, and it also teaches you respect for persons in authority. So I think I really value that experience. Kahit na ako'y nabilad ng 2 taon, nasunog hanggang hindi na bumalik ang kulay ko, pero just the same, Mr. Chairman, I really strongly believe in the ROTC because for the reasons that I have stated. Mr. Chairman, that's all. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor, Senator JB Ejercito. As we have discussed, he is one of the authors of these bills that we are tackling right now. Sir, would like to go back to you. Hindi ka natapos kanina, Attorney Reyes. Please continue, sir.
Yes, sir. Actually, timing po yung pagdating ni Senator JV Ejercito. Maybe I can segue already to basically just formulating for the good senators what the UP Vanguard has been advocating for the past 2 years. And the Citizen Service Training Program, in all the other bills that are pending, they will either be administered by the DND or in the last so-called consensus legislation, will be administered by a committee headed by the CHED. In the view of the UP Vanguard, it is our considered recommendation that this is best performed by an independent commission as suggested in the bill of Senator JV Ejercito. The primary reason for this is basically the concept of a single point of responsibility. Madami na po kasing trabaho ang DND, ang CHED, ang TESDA, ang DSWD, lahat po sila, they have missions that are been embedded into their systems, their personnel and all of that. Now, if we inject this, even with respect to the DND and the CHED, these agencies will actually still have to reorganize completely and retool and restaff. This is exactly what an independent commission will do. So our proposal, Your Honor, is that there will be an independent commission to be appointed by the President, but all of the stakeholders that were mentioned earlier are part of that commission. They will be part of that commission. So all decisions made will involve all of those stakeholders, but there will be a permanent member of 5 who will actually be the ones on a day-to-day basis looking at the discharge of their functions. Lahat po nung pinagbabanggit po natin, kaya po nating refinement dyan eh. We can refine those because we obviously cannot come up with a perfect program at the outset. But we can do it as best we can. So when we expand, that's the necessary consequence. Because before, ang alam po nating lahat ay ang military training lang po. Yun din po ang dinaanan namin eh. 4 na taon po ako nag-ROTC. I am actually an advanced course graduate. During our time, that's what we did. And it was purely military. But even then, and especially during the NSTP period, when we realized, doon po tayo tinamaan ng mahigit 20 bagyo every year eh. Yung 16 years ng NSTP na yan. And then we had earthquakes, we had volcanoes, volcanic eruptions. And this is what we mean when we say we expand. We expand so that all those who undergo this training at the tertiary level will be actually equipped to react to disasters wherever they may be. If they are not mobilized, they are already there. And there is also, as I mentioned earlier, Senator, sabi nga po nyo, mas maganda kung walang exemption. Because this is the challenge is for this commission to come up with programs with POIs that are dedicated to this ability that makes you unable to join the regular citizen service training program. And since we're all agreed now that it'll be at the college level, we can also agree, as we have previously suggested, that at the levels of grades 11 and 12, what can be put in that area would be the preparatory steps. So that by the time they enter the tertiary level for mandatory ROTC, they are not starting from scratch. Marunong na po silang magmarcha, marunong na po sila ng basic concepts, and we can now introduce more there, no? Problem, of course, would be the Ched has intimated many times na ang grades 11 and 12, punong-puno na po yung curriculum niyan ngayon. Pag dinagdagan daw po natin, baka sila na po ang magkadapa-dapa para ma-implement. But I think we can do it. Because there will be others who will help, no? Especially if the curriculum can be developed somewhere else, as in the commission that we are proposing. And that's why we are asking for an independent commission rather than giving this responsibility to either a department or a committee of departments and government instrumentalities who already have jobs. The commission will have none. This is its only job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Maganda po yung mga suggestions ninyo. Alam niyo yung hindi lang yung preparatory, no? Dapat talaga pati yung Boy Scout pa doon sa grade 1, 2, 3, 4. Kasi doon tayo nag-start ng magmamarcha eh. Left face, right face, about face doon sa Boy Scout. Napaka-importante po yun. But anyway, I would like to hear from mamaya, so itong mga government agencies, itong mga retired muna dahil kanina pa itong naghihintay, mabigyan natin ng chance. Sir, sinong mauna, sir? General Salazar? Sir, you have the floor.
Sirs, good morning. Yung grupo po namin, 2013 po kaming, I was a former J9 of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. There were earlier studies about the RC program. Yung sabi nyo nga, sir, maganda yung scouting sa bata pa lang because that is how our constitution is. Starting at the age of 10, we will train our youths to become future leaders. And that is why may scouting program tayo na nagkasala si ma'am, ang scouting program na wala. May ROTC tayo, may YDT pa nung una, CAT, ROTC. Nagkasala yung pamatay kay Chua, ang ROTC program, nagiging optional. But we should all know it is the defense of the state, yung nasa Constitution. And it is not voluntary. It is a requirement for every citizen to render military or non-military service to the Republic. And then, hindi siya optional. Naging optional ang NSTP. So the defense of the state become optional. The reason why we would like this to be clear. Likewise, RA 77, ang pinalit, hindi lahat doon nasunod kasi. So, sa amin lang, sa group namin, started to join sa DND 2013, even the ex-senator Manny Pacquiao made mention about senior high, that is already our stand. Because I think it is wrong also to say na we will be exporting child warrior. No, definitely no. If we will try to use our basic mathematics, it's definitely no. So, I have here with me Jel Garcia and Gerald Calonso. Jel Garcia our lawyer, will explain further, sir, on why we choose RC program in the senior high, not in the college. Because in the college, dapat, yun na yung parang Amerika, sir, na yung scholar na ng gobyerno para pag-graduate, yun yung magiging officer. And he can choose whether to become part of the regular force or to the reserve force. Kasi kailangan natin yun, sir, na ma-maintain ang organization. And then, yung mga pinag-usapan na pang-disaster, yung sir, katatapos ko lang, sir, last Wednesday, nag-retire pa ako sa OCD. Magandang pangarap, sir, pero yung oras na binibigay, yung 2 years lang, tapos once a week, mga panaginip po yun, sir. So, I stayed more than 5 years sa OCD, sir. I came from the regular force, so alam ko po yung mga so, I think my good friend here can explain more further. Magandang umaga po, sir. Magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Thank you, sir. Maraming salamat for that insight. Sir, you have the floor, General Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga po, Senator Go, Senator Padilla, and to everybody here. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Kasama po namin si General Calonso. Siya po ay Doctor of education. Si General Salazar was former J9 and I am a lawyer. I've been in the service. I was tasked to study Republic Act 7077. I would like to say, sir, that reviving
Dali,
ROT.
sir, sandali, excuse me for a while. General Salazar, sir, anong year ka nag-G9?
2013, sir.
Kuha na pala. Later part na pala. Akala ko noon pa. Anyway, may ikikwento lang ako sa iyo mamaya, sir. G9 is training, reserve affair. Reserve. Yung G8 pala yung training. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, please continue.
We would like to
Sorry.
say, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, that reviving ROTC has been a very steep climb for us since 2013 when we started the revival, the move to revive ROTC. Hindi pa po batas yung senior high, doon na namin pinopropose na ilagay yung mandatory basic ROTC. And we can say that at this point, after two presidents have directed the revival of ROTC and we are all here talking about reviving it, we can claim that 50% of the battle have been won. And the other 50% that remains is that where are we going to put ROTC? Is it in senior high school or is it in college? Sir, our position is in senior high school and it is based on law. First, we would like to ask everybody here, kayo na lang po ang sumagot sa sarili ninyo. Usually what we do is when we ask the question, we ask them to write their answers. Kinukuha po namin para to validate kung tama yung aming position. So we ask everybody actually, why are we doing ROTC? Marami pong sagot eh. To develop patriotism, love of country, to develop leadership. It's a requirement for graduation, things like that. Ano po? So, gusto po namin, we asked this question for may I proceed to
Yes,
Mr.
you have
Chairman?
the floor, please.
We asked this question for a clear understanding of the primary purpose of requiring our children to undergo ROTC. And in order to focus all our efforts in achieving the objective to the answer. Bakit natin ginagawa? Ngayon po, ang daming mga proposal eh. We can see na marami tayong gustong gawin for little time that the children has to, what the children has to learn. The answer, ROTC, source, Mr. Chairman, ROTC is just a small portion of our reserve force development. It is an alternative basic military training for our boys and girls in school. The answer to the question, why are we doing ROTC, sir, can be found in our Constitution and in our National Defense Act. Specifically, these are, number 1, Section 4, Article 2, 1987 Constitution. The prime duty of government is to serve and protect the people. Alam na po natin lahat yan. Palagi itong nasa site, itong provision na ito. The government may call upon the people to defend the state. And in the fulfillment thereof, all citizens may be required under conditions provided by law to render personal, military, or civil service. The other provision, sir, is Section 4 also, Article 16, 1987 Constitution. The armed forces of the Philippines shall be composed of a citizen armed force, which shall undergo military training and serve as may be provided by law. It shall keep a regular force necessary for the security of the state. And the last provision I will quote, Your Honor, is from Section 52 of Commonwealth Act Number 1, otherwise known as the National Defense Act of 1935. The obligation to undergo military training shall begin with the youth in school, commencing at the age of 10, and shall extend through his schooling until he shall have reached the age of 18 years. The intent of these provisions is the creation of a reliable and dependable reserve force that will augment our regular troops at any time that they are needed in times of war, invasion, rebellion, and to assist during national or local emergencies such as calamities, etc. The reserve force shall be composed of our youths whose patriotism, love of country, loyalty to the Constitution has been inculcated in their youth starting from age 10, continuously in school until they reach the age of 18. The intent of the basic law is the creation of a huge reserve force composed of practically all able Filipinos, the citizen armed force. In 1991, 4 years after the ratification of the 1987 Constitution, Congress enacted Republic Act 7077, the enabling law of the cited constitutional provisions that will implement its mandates. Organization of the reserve force is only through compulsory citizens military training, or CCMT for short. Lahat po yan. Whether you're in school, you're out of school, you are working, you are a cigarette vendor, you're a tricycle driver, you will have to undergo CCMT. The first call for mandatory general registration was supposed to be in 1992. And every 2 years up to the present. Those chosen by the board
What
of
happened, sir? What happened?
hindi po na-implement, sir. Which is why right now, I think this law has been passed. Very nice, beautiful law that applies to reserve force development has not been really applied and implemented.
Kaya, sir, ano mo, partly to blame rin tayo. Tayong nag-implement yan. Tayo sa armed forces.
Those who will-
Bakit hindi yan na-implement? Dahil nasa batas na eh. Hindi pa
Yung
na-implement.
pong-
At saka, balikan ko yung sinabi ni General Salazar kanina, yung parang suntok sa buwan yan dahil 1 day lang yung ROTC, sa Sabado lang. Anong gusto ninyo, magiging jack of all trades lahat ng kabataan natin. Marunong na sa military stakes, marunong na rin sa ano ito, yung mga relief operations, mga disaster management. Parang sabi ni Sir, alam mo sir, kaya ito in-inject. Dahil nga, partly to be blame rin tayo. Lalo na yung mga dating mga commandant natin sa ROTC na pag Biyernes na ng gabi, pupuntahan ng mga estudyante. Lasingin natin si commandant para bukas easy tayo. Pag nalasing si commandant ngayon, kinabukasan, ang mga ROTC cadets natutulog lang sa ilalim ng puno ng kahoy, pagka alas 5 ng hapon, dismiss. Wala nangyari sa 1 day nila. Kaya partly to be blame rin tayo, kaya maraming gusto mag-introduce ng reform sa ROTC program. Kaya sinaksak yung mga disaster relief operations, lahat-lahat. Yes, sir. Sir, balikan lang kita, sir.
With due respect, sir, yung pag-implement kasi ng RS-17, may role kasi ang LGU na malaki, sir. DILG, sir. May mga role doon, sir, kasi dapat, sir, yung mastering, sir, ng mga pangalan, sir, doon sa local civil registrar. Yung magtatawag, sir, yung LGU, sir. DILG pa, sir, hindi armed forces. Ang armed forces, sir, magti-training lang po, sir.
Yes, sir. Nakuha kita at saka alam ko sentimento mo kasi kung ano yung dinaanan mo, yun rin dinaanan ko eh. Alam ko yung nararamdaman mo. Kaya nga, babalik na naman tayo doon sa suggestion ni Attorney Reyes na may commission para makatutok talaga dyan dahil yung commission na yan, siya mag-direct sa lahat ng involved. I don't know if this is experiment or what, pero let's give it a try. Bureau ng DND.
Wala kasing cater sa reserve force sa bureau sa DND, sir. Nandun lang sa SEBRA, sir. Pero karamihan doon ang kinikater, sir, veterans. Pero yung reserve force, sir, yung bureaucrasya niya, sir, sinakop ng regular na ang regular busy sa away. Dapat, sir, ihiwalay.
Wala kayong bureau under this na nagkikater ng ROTC? SEBRA?
General Salazar is correct, sir. SEBRA, sir, yung sir, ang technically in charge, sir. It's Civilian Veteran Retirees Affairs,
So, ang
sir.
dami na nga problema sa mga veterans. Tapos
Yes, sir.
ang ROTC, saksak ko pa dyan. Mapabayaan talaga ang ROTC.
But if I may answer, despite the fact, sir, na walang specific na or dedicated na office that are looking into the reserve force development, but it is being taken by SIBRA, sir, to look into the development. That's why, as in the DND right now, are also looking into the reserve force development of the armed forces of the Philippines, because we know that is a very important component of the total force concept. So, although walang opisina, sir, but it is not really accurate to say na walang tumitingin, sir, sa DND regarding sa reserve force development.
Meron, pero konti lang, konting pagtingin.
Hindi na.
Anyway, sige.
Yes,
Okay, I got your point. Sir, please continue. General
Thank you,
Garcia.
sir. Thank you, sir. As I was saying, sir, the first call for mandatory general registration was supposed to be in 1992 and every 2 years thereafter. Those chosen by the Board of Canvassers from among the registrants will be provided with basic military training similar to the program of instructions of a candidate soldier and entering our armed forces. This is in order to fulfill their mission of augmenting the regular force. The reserve force is subject to call at any time. So sir, kung augmentation ka, kailangan pareho ang training nyo. Yun yan sa ROTC is a ground to request for deferment from undergoing CCMT for 2 years while you are enrolled in school, which is why I said earlier that it is an alternative military training for those who are in school. And later, Mr. Chairman, ROTC becomes a cause for exemption to CCMT upon successful completion of basic ROTC.
Yes, precisely. That's why yung punto ni Senator Win Gatchalian kanina, nakukover mo na rin dyan. Yung hindi mag-ROTC, dapat para magamit sila, yung
Sir,
sabi mo, CCMT.
Magastos lang po yung
Magastos talaga.
CCMT. The ROTC in senior high school actually is going to answer a lot of problems that we will encounter when we eventually implement RA 7077 on the general registration and mandatory training of all our citizens between ages 18 to 25. So this, Your Honor, what we are telling you now is actually based on law and based on the Constitution why we are doing ROTC. So graduates of basic ROTC become part of the reserve force upon the attainment of 18 years of age. The NARA model of mandatory basic ROTC, sir, has 2 components. Number 1, first we train the trainers. Those who will run the program must undergo and must complete the Train the Trainers program. If you don't know about ROTC, the ROTC, the new ROTC program, you have no business running it. So that the guy running ROTC in Batanes will run the same ROTC in Tawi-Tawi. The second part, Your Honor, is that is when we run the program. The NARA model of basic ROTC will require the student to take 4 hours of classroom instruction every week and pass the subject like any other subject. Totohanan po ito na training, talagang mag-aaral ka and you're going to get experts from the field pagka pinag-uusapan na natin tungkol sa infantry, etc. yung mga ganon. MS-11 will be offered in grade 11, MS-12 for grade 12. There will still be limited formation during weekends to learn basic drills and ceremonies. There will be field training exercise for 2 consecutive summers, boot camp to sir, where the students will learn the actual application of the theories they learned in school, in the classroom. Details of the curriculum and other requirements can be discussed in detail at a later time. Mr. Chairman, other than basic soldiery, the students will learn discipline, leadership, punctuality, responsibility, and reliability, but not humanitarian assistance and public safety, which are better learned when they are already part of the reserve. We consider humanitarian assistance and disaster relief a very serious matter, Your Honor. To send our boys to do this by just teaching them a few hours of what disaster is, it will not help them. It's going to expose them to unnecessary danger. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief and public safety are better learned when they are already part of the reserve, where they will be trained and equipped as a unit. Specialized po, sir. Hindi kahit ano suntok sa buwan gagawin mo eh. Magte-training ka for fire lang kayo, for earthquake, for collapse building, for flood, for whatever. Basta si Bernie kasama pa. Pero specialized training, sir, hindi yung tuturuan mo lang ng kung anong units, ilang idea about HADR, and then you expect these boys, you send your boys to do that. Hindi naman po prepared. They must be trained, they must be equipped, they know who's going to run the show and what role they are going to play. Hindi po konting bla-bla lang sa classroom, we want to inject so many in a very few hours. Basic ROTC po is simply basic soldiery. After they become part of the reserve, then you can teach them all the other things so that they can accomplish their mission after that. In line with the purpose and objective of K-12 program, graduates of basic ROTC will be granted grade 1 civil service eligibility. Graduates will also be issued AFP serial number and a certificate for completing basic ROTC. It is a prerequisite to graduation, sir. ROTC in college will remain optional as an advanced course for those desiring to join the armed forces upon completion of their baccalaureate degree. We submit that basic ROTC in senior high school will not violate the UN protocol on child soldier because number one, we are not training our boys for the purpose of sending them to the battlefield. Wait. Graduates of ROTC will not be part of our reserve force until they reach the age of 18 years old. And number three, we are requiring basic ROTC not for the purpose of involving them in hostilities, but only to prepare them in the performance of their constitutional duty. We strongly believe that the UN protocol on child soldier will not be violated because the power of the President of the Republic to mobilize our reserve force is limited to defensive purposes only. Hindi po niya pwedeng sabihin, lusubin mo ito, activate, mobilize the reserve. Wala pong ganon. And therefore, we will not violate the UN protocol. Furthermore, in case of war, invasion, rebellion, our local law makes it the duty of every citizen to defend the state and our freedom. Section 2, National Policy, the Philippines, Section 2 of the National Defense Act. The national policy of the Philippines shall be as follows. Letter A, the preservation of the state is the obligation of every citizen. Our National Defense Act does not qualify as to age, sex, race, or religion. When we are attacked, the government may call upon the people to defend the state. Last page na po, sir. Very important is the fact that mandatory basic ROTC in senior high school. Ito po yung sinabi kanina ni Senator Padilla. Very important is the fact that mandatory basic ROTC in senior high school will serve as a strong deterrent to NPA recruitment in our schools, colleges, and universities. Finally, for those who are suggesting to call ROTC by a different name, but for the same purpose, be reminded of the President's directive during the first State of the Nation address, reinstitute ROTC. Why are we introducing a different program? The President, in his own words, Mr. Chairman, is herein reproduced verbatim. He said, number 16, mandatory reserve officers training course and national service training program. This seeks to reinstitute the ROTC program as a mandatory component of senior high school program in grades 11 and 12 in all public and private tertiary level institution. The aim is to motivate, train, organize, mobilize students for national defense preparedness, including disaster preparedness and capacity building for risk-related situation. Mr. Chair, what is needed to be done only, Mr. Chair, is simply to put back into the law, put back into RA 7077 what was taken away by the NSTP law. but without touching the NSTP law. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Si
Thank you,
Dr.
General Garcia, sir. Thank you. Matanong nga pala kita, Attorney Farulan. Bakit napalitan natin yung pangalan? Nawala yung ROTC. Yan yung punto niya. Yung sinabi ni Presidente nung SONA, bring back ROTC program. Paano nga pala nakarating kayo nung ibang pangalan? Thank you.
Sir. Sir, yung pagbabago ng pangalan, bakit hindi ROTC, bakit hindi mandatory, walang mandatory dun sa pangalan ng title, it also carries yung the intent and the policy behind it and what really drives that program. Ang sabi nga po natin, ang gustong paghugutan ng programa ay yung pagmamahal ng tao, ng bata, ng ating kabataan sa kanyang bayan. Ang kanyang volunteerism sa pagsisilbi.
Alam mo yung kuana?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yung ewan ko lang, baka sa amin lang mga matatanda yan eh. Pag sinabi mong ROTC, ang lakas ng dating ng patriotism, ng nationalism. Sa atin, sir, matatanda, di ba? Pag sinabi mong ROTC, may dating talaga na, ewan ko lang sa inyo, sa mga bata ngayon, kung anong dating sa inyo ng ROTC. Ang lakas ng dating ng patriotism dyan, pag binanggit mong ROTC. But anyway, we respect your ideas. Please.
Actually, sir, I'm also a product of the advanced ROTC of UP. I'm a UP Vanguard as well. I'm a Corps Commander 97 and also an EFP Cadet of the Year 1996. So I really feel I went through the 4 years of grueling training as well, and also saw. I graduated 97, but I was active in helping out with programs in ROTC. So I actually saw what happened because of the Mark Chua case and how how it evolved. And that's also why I'm quite passionate about this. The change of name is really to have that impact. Yes, we do understand the historical significance of ROTC, and that will never be changed, sir. That is also why if you're going to look at the proposed subjects, which we did not include in the bill, but gustong pasama ni Chair Popoy sana rin yun, military history is a key feature in that curriculum as well. Para makita talaga sa ROTC program. But right now, if we're going to look at the policy and the intent behind it, looking at the context of the statement of President Marcos, President Bongbong Marcos in his last SONA. Remember, sir, in the first SONA of President Duterte, this was also mentioned. In the first SONA of President Marcos, this was also mentioned. And in his statement in President Marcos' SONA, he really wanted something as strong in the ROTC program, something as strong as the program that carries the name ROTC, but he wants to expand it. He wants to make sure that it also covers those areas and covers the needs of the country right now. At the same time, relevant and would really be attractive to the youth as well. And right now, volunteerism seems to be the more sustainable approach in ensuring that we have citizens willing to serve our country. The mandatory aspect of it, kasi nga, hindi lang World War II, sir. Even in the 1950s, if you look at our history, if you go sila General Magno, kinikwento, sir, if I don't know if you can recall General Magno, sinasabi niya 1952, Metro Manila was actually was already encircled by the Huk Balahap at that time. And they were the graduates of the ROTC then. And they were immediately commissioned because they needed officers, because they were the last line of defense before Manila fell. We almost came close, Manila almost came close to falling to the hooks at that time. And then it was the ROTC that actually saved Manila at that time. So, kung history lang sir, nandun talaga. But with the changing of the times, we need to find a program that is sustainable and is fueled not by the mandatoriness or compulsion, but because the compulsion is not something the state pushes or requires, but it is a compulsion from inside the person. Yung pagmamahal niya mismo po talaga sa bayan, which is the message of our past president and our current president, yun din naman po ang gustong paggalingan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Atty. Buhay pa ba si General Magno?
Yes, sir. Very much healthy, sir.
Sure ka?
Vanguard si General Magno.
Jumag?
Yes, si Jomag, sir.
How old na?
92, sir.
Huh?
He's
And he's very bright, very sharp still, sir.
Southcom Commander. When I was a college student, Southcom Commander yan.
Yes, sir. And the
buhay pa.
military advisor of President Cory Aquino and also
Oh.
former president of GSIS, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Kaano-ano mo si General Farolan?
The last time we spoke, we agreed that we will be relatives by agreement, sir.
Okay, thank you, attorney. Sandali, alam nyo, si Yusek Ronald Cardima, attorney Reyes, attorney Farolan, kayo mga UP vanguards. Di ba nyo alam na ako rin ay MSU rear guards ang tawag sa amin. Yung ROTC namin sa Mindoro State University sa Marawi, rear guards. Kasi sabi nila, the UP guards the front, then MSU guards the rear. So kayo vanguard, kami rear guard. We complement each other. And advanced sa ROTC rin ako ng UP, ng MSU. Kaya alam ko rin yung programa na yan by heart. Please, Yusek Madriaga.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The honorable members of the committee. Just to clarify, sir, regarding the change of name, no? I can proudly also say, sir, that I underwent ROTC before I joined PMA. So I did not exempt myself from the ROTC. And I do recognize the word RO, that we can say it's a word ROTC is a very venerable institution in our history. It first came about in UP, and it played a vital role in the defense of our country even up to now. But the changes in the name, sir, came about just to give proper perspective, sir, dun sa mga intentions and objectives ng training. Instituting the word ROTC to grades 11 and 12 is a bit of a misnomer because we are not creating reserve officer to grades 11 and 12. So the reserve ROTC is being used for tertiary for 4 years for those who really want to become officers later. Nandun yung ROTC because eksakto yun, sir. They want to become officers someday. So sa kanila yung term na ROTC. Doon sa mga hindi naman sa college, sir, na yung first 2 years, meron silang citizen soldiers training doon, sir. So these are for the mobilizable reserve. But the intent of the ROTC program itself is not lost in the consensus bill that is being proposed. That is to prepare our youth, develop their nationalism, their patriotism, and make them ready for any eventualities. Yung mga sinight po, sir, ni General Garcia are most of yung mga hindi na-implement on are nahagip po dito sa batas na to. Yun lang po, sir. Kaya in-explain ko lang po kung ano yung bakit nagkaroon ng mga changes doon yung sa 11 and 12 po, para it's a citizen development program na po ang tawag doon. Yun sa 4-year course na mag-o-officer, yun po yung mandatory ROTC. But yung first 2 years ng tertiary is mandatory yun para sa lahat and prepare them for war and for emergency. Kasi meron dun portion sila na citizen soldier training po in addition to other relevant subject.
Alam mo yung distinction na yan, na-cure na yan noon pa 1979. Yung first 2 years ng ROTC namin, ang tawag nun CMT. Citizens Military Training. Then nung nag-advance na kami, naging ROTC na. Kasi for preparation for officership na yun ng armed forces So, matagal na yan noon, naayos na yan noon. But anyway, I would like to hear from Yusek Cardima. Yeah, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize for being late. I just came from a gathering of ROTC Corps Commanders in Baguio. So, just to start, sir, para an icebreaker for everybody, I'm very happy everybody here is for ROTC. Ano lang, sa sobrang passionate na mga tao dito about ROTC, merong gusto sa college, merong gusto sa senior high at iba pang edition ng ROTC. But wala naman dito si Raul Manuel ngayon, congressman na, buti naman. Siguro just an icebreaker, I'd like to show you a few minutes lang of what the ROTC officers and some of the Filipino youth leaders just did in Baguio, where I came from. Para makita ninyo, alam nyo mga kabataan ngayon, iba, ang attention span, hindi ganun katulad ng dati. Kaya makita nyo, ito lang, katatapos lang nito.
Sound. Lakasan nyo. Para ganahan yung mga maedad na dito. Maalala yung dinaanan namin noon.
Pinagsama-sama po natin lahat ng PMA cadets, ROTC Corps Commanders, and SK. Ayan.
Philosopher Diogenes said many centuries ago, and I quote him, "The foundation of every state is the education of its youth." It is practical education that will mold our leaders of the future to gain skills and knowledge in leading the youth of your respective areas of responsibility. Yet it is not only the academic education of our youth that is important, but the development of their leadership qualities as well. You will be our country's leaders in the very near future. That might come sooner than you think. It behooves you to prepare for that time by continuously educating yourself, by learning as much as you can from books, your own lives, professors, and mentors. The hope of the future rests in your hands. Prepare yourselves for the challenge. Understanding the importance of leadership will help you lead more fulfilling and socially engaging lives. All of you can be agents of social change, but it will not come in handy unless you hone your skills by educating yourselves. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. That is according to former President Nelson Mandela of South Africa.
At this point, I would like to congratulate the National Youth Commission for unifying them in one common goal. That is to reaffirm our commitment, ang ating determination upang paglingkuran ng ating bansa at involve the youth in all activities in society.
Leadership cannot be taught through, but it can be learned. One has to have the appetite, the courage, and commitment to be a good leader. Leadership is both a virtue and skill that youth leaders like all of you must seek to acquire.
Yusek, nahanap ni Senator Tolentino yung picture niya. Bakit hindi mo sinama?
May isang sir, mas buong video for him lang yung parada, sir.
Kanya lang.
Opo, sir. This is just the second day, sir.
Nagbailad pa yan umakyat doon eh.
Oo, sir.
Sige, thank you. Please continue.
Sir, you've just seen how the NYC gathered the ROTC Corps commanders of different universities together with the Sangguniang Kabataan leaders and PMA cadets, PNPA cadets, PMMA cadets in Baguio. And I just came from Baguio this morning. And yun nga sir, minsan nga tinatanong ko ba't hindi ako minsan ini-invite about sa ROTC. Kami na nga lang talaga yung push ng todo with the DND. I was an ROTC Corps Commander in UP Diliman before. I was also a CAT High School Corps Commander in Los Baños. Bago naman yun, sir.
Sino senior sa inyong dalawa?
Senior po
Attorney
si
Parma.
Spaki, sir. Yes, sir. And si
Nung siya?
Attorney Reyes po, sir.
Ayun talaga,
Opo,
obvious.
sir. Kami, sir, sa National Youth Commission, ang masabi namin dito, sir, taking off from what the recent resource person have said, sa pangalan na technicality lang yan, sir. Minsan pag ginawa niyong Citizen Service Act, just an objective opinion, yung mga out-of-school youth magtatanong, hindi ba sila citizen? Hindi sila sinasali, di ba? Mas kailangan nga nila ng aruga at disiplina galing sa gobyerno, pagtuturo, di ba? So ano lang just an objective point of view. Pag nilipat mo from ROTC to, kasi minsan pinag-aawayan dito, ROTC ba is college, ROTC ba is high school, kapag ginawa mong Citizen Service Act, hindi ba citizens yung mga out-of-school youth na mas kailangan ng training at disiplina, di ba, para magkaroon sila ng future. Pangalawa, sir, yung sinabi rin ni Senator JV na he undergone ROTC even though he was a son of a senator, yun ang isang magandang aspeto ng ROTC. Just like in Korea, di ba, kahit anak ka ng bilyonaryo, anak ka ng politiko rin, you must undergo, kahit artista ka, you must undergo the military service there. So this gives way yung parang equality. Kahit anak ka ng mayaman, anak ka ng mahirap, anak ka ng politiko, anak ka ng enlisted personnel, all of you, basta kayo ay kabataang Pilipino, will undergo this training, this national service for our country. O, ano pang pinagdedebatehan dito, kaya tumatagal, kung saan ilalagay, di ba? High school ba o sa college ba? Sino ba mag-handle? Kahit kasi busy yung mga ibang ahensya, departamento. Siguro, just a note, i-volunteer ko yung agency namin. National Youth Commission, meron kaming commissioner for SK, pwede rin naman lagyan ng isang commissioner for ROTC yun para hindi kayo nag-aaway-away. Mas tutok kami dyan. Hindi nga namin trabaho yan, pero we're the ones gathering the ROTC Corps Commanders every year. We are finding ways to bring back the ROTC. For the past 10 years, I was an ROTC lobbyist in Congress. Doon ko nga nakilala si Senator Gatchalian, Congressman Gatchalian, because every year, siguro I approach around 50 congressmen to lobby for the ROTC. Ang problema dyan, na-observe naman na ating mga senador, if it is not a topic of the month, a topic of the week, talagang matatabunan yung ROTC. Di ba? So, ang kagandahan ngayon, it is a priority measure of the incumbent president and commander-in-chief. That is why naka-ilang steps na tayo, pataas na. So, dito po sa ating level, wag na po tayo mag-away-away. Lahat naman tayo passionate for the ROTC. Let's just find the common ground para maisabatas na po ito. Ang observation ko bilang National Youth Commission Chairman, kapag nag-gather yung mga NYC Chairman at Youth Minister sa Asia Pacific sa ibang bansa, alam niyo yung mga kabataan nila, pine-prepare rin nila for disaster preparedness, in military training. Magtataka kayo, yung iba kong kausap na NYC chairman, ang sinasabi nila, handa sa disasters yung mga kabataan nila. Kasi yung bagyo daw, pagkagaling sa Pilipinas, dadaan sa kanila. Hindi ko nga lang matanong sa sarili ko, ba't sa mismong Pilipinas? Hindi tayo prepared, sila, na secondary victim ng bagyo, prepared sila. Di ba? We have a 110 million population at ang mga kabataang Pilipino kailangan ng nation building training. And to take note of the comments of General Garcia there, yung sinasabi nila, ROTC is just a subject. Di ba? We want our Filipino youth to be nationalistic and to be disciplined. Pero hindi lang to dapat nandyan. Dapat, kaya nga kami sa National Youth Commission, bago magsona ang presidente, nag-submit na kami ng proposal namin sa presidente. Bago pa siya magsona, we want the Boy Scout and Girl Scout to be mandatory in the elementary. We want CAT also or PMT to be mandatory in high school or senior high. And we want ROTC to be mandatory in college because hindi pwedeng yan. Pagdating ng koleyo, attend ka lang, tapos sasabihin mo na, magiging nationalistic yang gawa ng ROTC. Pwede. Pero dapat simulan mo sa mas bata pa, yung formulative stage ng bata para tinuturuan mo na siya ng basic survival, love of country. Elementary pa lang, pagpunta ng high school, alam niya, yun yung level up dun sa kanyang nation building training. ROTC, yun yung isa pang nation building training niya, advanced training na. Ang mga kabataan ngayon, alam naman na ibang kabataan dito, ang attention span, hindi ganon. Di ba? Hindi yan yung katulad natin na nakasanayan mong lalabas sa kapitbahay, makikipaglaro sa kapitbahay. And mag-uusap and todo yung interaction. Social media na. Ang mga kabataan ngayon, you must make the ROTC program, if this is enacted, into a more attractive program for the Filipino youth, for them to enjoy, for them to aspire for to graduate. Isa pang comment ko siguro, yung sa uniform, yun naman talaga yung isang issue ng mga kabataan. Uniform, gagastos daw, sasabihin ng mga magulang. Why not sa simula ng ROTC program, pwedeng kung ano yung school uniform nila, yun muna. And kapag onwards, tsaka na magkaroon ng uniform. Bakit? Kapag pinabili mo agad ng uniform yan bago mag-training, una, gastos. Magrarally na naman yung mga anti-ROTC na bigyan ng gastos. Pangalawa, baka isipin ng bata, ang uniforme ay nabibili lang. Di ba? Kung saan-saan. Pwede ka hindi nagte-training, bili ka lang, isuot mo lang. Why not make the uniform parang an award or an level up? After training for 2 months, 3 months, now you deserve to wear the uniform of our country. Kayo na mag-decide kung it will be provided by the government or it will be provided by the schools. But kailangan ang iniisip kasi natin dito yung mga technicality eh. College ba, high school ba, gastusin, sino magte-training. You must think, this is a nation-building program to make the Filipino youth, milyong-milyong kabataang Pilipino, to make them have sense of discipline, sense of nation-building, sense of nationalism. And ang comment ko lang siguro sa armed forces, wag niyo po dito ipadala yung mga opisyal niyo na may kaso sa field. Kasi minsan, pag opisyal ka sa field, nagkakaso ka, papadala ka sa ROTC, ikaw muna yung commandant.
Yeah, lessons learned na yan ng AFP. Sabi ko nga, you should involve the best officers para sa ROTC. Noon kasi, the worst of the worst ang lalagay doon. Kasi ayun lang, yung ROTC lang yan, ibigay yan sa mga mahinang klase. Kaya tingnan mo ang naging resulta. Pero ngayon, lessons learned na natin yun. Dapat ilagay natin yung pinaka magagaling na officials. Please continue.
Thank you, sir. Last clip. This was the ROTC in the Philippines 105 years ago. Kanina nakita niyo yung mga kabataan ngayon. Ito yung mga kabataan 105 years ago sa ating bansa. Hindi po yung mga nakatalikod. Yan. Mga kabataang Pilipino 105 years ago. These are not soldiers. These are ordinary students.
Saan yan? UP? Ang galing ng UP talaga. Oh. Sinabi yung location.
to end our presentation, siguro masabi ko lang sa inyo na karamihan sa inyo dito, this is just part of your daily schedule na, anong schedule natin today? ROTC. Sa mga resource persons, sa ating mga senador, sa mga Senate staff. Today, this morning, ROTC. Bukas, iba na. Susunod na araw, iba na. But para ipakita sa inyo kung gaano ka-importante ito, nung tinayo yung Commonwealth of the Philippines, Commonwealth Act number 1 is National Defense Act. Kung ito, mas nauna pa to sa National Defense Act. Pero to makita nyo gaano kahalaga ang pag-create nitong military training sa ating mga kabataan, sa ating bansa, na yun ang kauna-unahang batas nung tinayo yung gobyerno ng Commonwealth dito sa Pilipinas. What you decide here is a decision to strengthen not only one subject in college or in high school, but to strengthen an entire generation of Filipino youth and their sense of discipline and sense of nation building. That is why from the National Youth Commission, we commend everybody here, the senator sponsors, and all the advocates here. We are all advocating for ROTC, magpalit man yan ng pangalan at kahit ano, magkaisa po tayo dito para maipasa na ito. Kasi nung huling kongreso, naalala ko, it was already a priority bill of President Duterte. Kinulang lang ng ilang araw kaya hindi naging batas.
Inabutan tayo ng pandemic. Hindi
Yes, sir.
na na-hear kasi sa basic education yun, di ba? Kaya Senator Gatchalian, nabutan tayo ng pandemic.
Yes, sir. And now, it is also a priority measure again of the new president, and he mentioned it in his persona. Sana po maging batas na. Ang pwedeng niyong gawing pagkakaiba dito is nakakasawa naman talaga kung puro marcha. Diba? I experienced that as an ROTC basic officer, and even as a corps commander. Ayoko rin naman nagmamarcha yung mga kabataan paulit-ulit. You must create good programs and modules for the ROTC. Why not create a disaster preparedness battalion, a cyber security battalion, kasi social media age na ngayon. Yun ang mga pwede nyong ibahin sa ROTC ngayon. But kailangan na talaga tong ROTC because lumalaki yung populasyon ng Pilipinas. Wala tayong sense of yung strong nation building subjects like the ROTC. Sabihin ko sa inyo, for the last time, ang failure dito ng NSTP, may representative yung NSTP? Wala. NSTP existed for 20 years. Hindi naman nabuo talaga yung National Service Training Corps na yon. Kapag nagkagera, nagka-calamities, wala pang napapatawag for 20 years. There are schools na kumikita sa NSTP. Because dati, ang bibilin mo lang naman talaga uniform and pambayad siguro sa instructor o sa commandant, pang snacks lang yun lang. But now, it is an income generating function for schools because they are offering different NSTPs. For example, in UP, there's a college, origami yung pinalit sa sa ROTC, yun yung NSTP ng college nila, origami. For 1 year, origami.
Ano yun?
Origami, sir, yung folding ng papel, sir.
Ha?
Folding ng Japanese paper. Japanese art, sir. So, yes, sir. Nowadays, every college, every school can offer its own version of NSTP. And it is not being accounted for. Kung anong tinuturo nila sa kabataan Pilipino. You must make it mandatory and uniform. From Luzon to Mindanao, isang training module lang ang tinuturo, isang POI, Program of Instruction. Para wala ring discrepancy. Meron kang mga kabataan ngayon, di nag-ROTC, meron kang kabataan nag-NSTP, you must make it uniform. Ipasok mo na lang yung ibang magaganda sa NSTP as modules dun sa ROTC, pero wag yung iba-iba yung nararanasan ng kabataan Pilipino. It creates inequality. Diba? So, sana po maibalik na natin ang ROTC and the start of the school year next year. Ito po ay ma-implement sa ating bansa dahil we are the most disaster-prone country in the world. And you must mobilize the youth in disaster preparedness. Wala nang iba, hindi na natin mobilize yung senior citizens. It is the youth who is the hope of this motherland, and this ROTC will be the seed to create a sense of nation building and discipline among the youth, among the hope of the motherland. Thank you po.
Thank you, Yusek Cardima. Nabanggit na rin ni Yusek Cardima yung regarding sa uniform. Yung proposal natin is subsidize yung uniform ng mga estudyante. Pero before that, tanungin natin yung Department of Finance habang andito. Wala ang DBM eh. Yung sagutin, andyan bang DBM? Anyway, andito yung sikuha mo na, Attorney Gakutan mo na. Ano masasabi mo tungkol dyan sa budget? Mayroon ba tayong mapagkukunan ng pondo para dito? Sa
Good morning,
revival
Your Honor.
ROTC? Thank
Good
you.
morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. We, in the Department of Finance, we just like to manifest that we generally support the intent of the proposal to inculcate among the youth the value of patriotism. Insofar as the incentives provisions is concerned, Your Honor, the Department of Finance participated and attended the consultative meetings spearheaded by the PLLO, Your Honor, for the drafting of the consensus bill. Nevertheless, we reserve the right to submit our formal position paper insofar as the various Senate bills is concerned for this proposed measure, Your Honor.
Thank you. Maraming salamat. May we hear from Attorney Estrada of the Philippine Association of Private Schools, Colleges, and Universities. You have the floor, sir.
Magandang tanghali po, Senator Bato, Chairman, and the authors of and sponsors of bills, and everyone, all the members of the committee present, subcommittee present. Magandang hapon po. I join the collective aspirations and goals of the authors of the bills, and also I join the goals on preparedness for insurgencies, threats of war, disaster risk management. Ako po personally, I'm proud to say that I'm also a product of the ROTC. Even if I'm the namesake of the president at that time, hindi po ako nagpa-exempt. And meron po akong opportunity noon to be a draftsman, pero mas maganda po na nasa field. So I'm also a product of the ROTC. But I'm not here for my personal position, but of the private education sector as managing director of the COCOPEA. So I'd like to provide some inputs for consideration of the committee in order to arrive at a consensus bill consolidating all of the versions. First, to allay the fears on allegations of abuses and corruption that haunt the ROTC implementation in the past. I think this is very important. Both in the bills of Senator JV, Senate Bill 1235, and that of Senator Jinggoy, Senate Bill 468, in their respective explanatory notes, it highlights the importance of prevention of abuses and crimes, specifically hazing, bribery, extortion, graft, and sexual harassment. Also in Senate Bill 1235, it acknowledges and provides the proper context that after issues of corruption, hazing, and abuses surrounding its implementation, ROTC was made optional through the enactment of the NSTP law. In COCOPEA, we believe that fundamental to reinstating the mandatory ROTC is revisiting these matters that paved the way for the enactment of NSTP law. As mentioned in the bills, these include allegations of physical, psychological excesses, and even abuses on students by those handling the ROTC programs in colleges and universities, and allegations of program-wide corruption. While these Senate bills, including that of the chairman, Senator Bato, provide for the imposition of maximum penalties for corruption, hazing, sexual harassment, and other abuses when committed by those administering the program. Objectively, Your Honors, this may still be inadequate. We propose to explore in the bills putting more controls at the level of the schools to ensure abusers are deterred from even, or abuses are deterred from even happening at the first instance. We also kindly propose the mandate of creation of offices in the schools to receive complaints from trainees and those that ensure the welfare of student trainees are fully protected and promoted during training. This is aligned with Section 10 of Senator Win Gatchalian's bill on the creation of grievance committee. In the past, Your Honors, when ROTC programs are implemented in colleges and universities, its officials are completely devoid of any discretion on how the training is conducted, on the selection of officers to train the students, and even the student disciplinary policies applicable to student trainees and even to the trainers or officers. The complete or full autonomy and separation of the ROTC from the college or university administration lacks the necessary checks and balances in its implementation, which would also be able to deter abuses and corruption. And most especially now, this is important because the concept of ROTC and the program components now expand to civil defense, non-military combat, disaster management. And so therefore, we would hope for a more increased role of the higher education institutions and not just mere venues for training. Also important is the academic freedom of institutions of higher learning, since we are implementing this in higher education. As you may know, the academic freedom is guaranteed by the Constitution, no less, under Article 14, Section 4, Paragraph 1, and it needs no legislation for this to be enjoyed by our institutions of higher learning. And certainly, academic freedom is important because we are implementing this in the academe. It's a requirement for graduation. It is also implemented in the schools, and it affects students. And in as much as, again, it is mandated to be part of the curricula and trainings are held in the campus, ROT must not completely set aside academic freedom in the administration of ROTC in the schools through the oversight function of the Commission on Higher Education. Also, the concept of shared responsibility and accountability in the implementation of ROTC programs finds basis in Article 14, Section 3, Paragraph 2 of the Constitution, which also provides the role of educational institutions. So when we talk about patriotism, nationalism, kasama po dito sa provision ng Constitution which provides for the role of educational institutions. And if I may read, they, educational institutions, shall inculcate patriotism, nationalism, foster love of humanity, respect for human rights, appreciation of the role of national heroes, teach and rights and duties of citizenship, among others. So kasama po yan sa role ng ating educational institutions. And looking closely at the declaration of policy of all of the bills filed, they are very much aligned with the role of educational institutions. And HEIs, especially the private higher education institutions, each have their own vision and mission. Some schools, particularly religious education institutions, believe that in attaining peace, for example, military training is not the only answer, but propagating faith to alleviate poverty as the root cause of insurgency. Moreover, there are those who think that the nation needs an army of volunteers also and advocates to fight the threats of illiteracy, of political and social apathy, and the perpetuation of social inequities that continue to obstruct genuine national progress. Hence, we hope for provisions that may be explored in all of the bills where there is an increased participation from our higher education institutions, and they are given the freedom to determine on their own institutional and curricular programs and align them in the declared policy and goals of the proposed law, especially on the curricular development, Senator Chairman Bato. And lastly, on the incentives, we appreciate the provisions on incentives to students in all of the bills, but we hope that an incentive to institutions may also be explored, the participating private higher education institutions, in order to help the government in implementing this program. So for context, meron po tayong 1,700 private higher education institutions in the country of the total 1,900. So sa atin po yung majority, if we can get or maximize the support of all of these higher education institutions through support from the government, I think it will help strengthen our aspirations. And also we have 1.8 million students in higher education, of the total 3.4 million. So malaki po talaga ang nasa private sector. So, but not all private higher education institutions have the capacity and capability to hold the ROTC trainings programs in their campuses, and also to provide the necessary support to the students. So if that can also be explored, yung pong incentives and support, institutional support po sa ating mga private higher education institutions. Maraming salamat po, and we hope we can also participate if there is a technical working group that may be created to help in the drafting of the provisions. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon.
Thank you, Attorney Estrada. We'll take in po yung lahat ng inputs mo. We proceed to Attorney Joshua Calaguas. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to say that we would.
Pwede ilapit, sir, kunti para, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Pako.
Yes, sir. We join the points made by Attorney Estrada as representative of the Association of Colleges and Universities. We would also like to reiterate that the current bills that we have presented to us are really lacking in terms of giving the school some freedom in controlling the curricular or parts of the curricula with regard to the ROTC program. But we would like to reiterate that we are happy that we are talking about nation building and inculcating that with the youth. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney. Kuwan lang yan. Bigayan lang yan. Give and take lang yan. Either all schools will adjust to this program, or the program will adjust to the peculiarities of the school. So makukuha natin yan through magandang usapan. Salamat po. Thank you. Sir, we'll reserve the last for Senator Tolentino. General Calonzo. Then after General Calonzo, si Director Sullivan. Hindi pa siya nakapagbigay ng kanyang pending statement. Sir, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Just to conclude the position of the NARA, we would like to support what was mentioned by General Salazar, that the administration and supervision of the ROTC implementation should remain with the Department of National Defense. Also, on the issue of training, sir, meron lang akong gustong sabihin tungkol dito sa training na para sa ating lahat. Those who will supervise and work for the development of the training program, that at the end of the training program, graduates should be able to confidently say that when needed, he will be ready to defend, prepared and ready to defend the country. Yun lang, sir, kasi pinag-uusapan ko minsan, gaano ba katagal yung training? 30 hours, 60 hours, that is very short. So, kung tayo yung magti-training at masabi natin sa sarili natin na kapag ka ako ay nakatapos nitong training na ito, ay handa na ako at ready na ako kung tawagin ako na lumaban kung sakaling kailangan, okay. But God help us kung sakaling mangyari yan. Kung hindi natin matrain ng maayos yung ating mga kabataan, imagine what will happen to them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I would like to associate myself with your observation. Dapat talaga kailangan natin yan na handa sila. What's the purpose of this program kung hindi natin sila magiging prepared, hindi natin sila ma-prepare for any eventuality. Alam ko yung shortcomings ng armed forces, pero ako yung ROTC ko na dinaanan ay maswerte kami dahil sa Mindanao, maraming military units doon. Pag nagmamarsa kami, nagpo-formation, ang hawak-hawak ng yung mga namin, kadetes, kahoy talaga na rifle, kahoy. Pero pagdating sa subject ng mga anong tawag nun? Hindi, Mark Masip, yung assembly, disassembly ng arroz ba? Field stripping. Field stripping ng mga subjects. Madali kami manghiram. Daming army doon sa gilid ng MSU campus. Dali manghiram ng mga Armalite, lahat ng klase, pati M60. Machine gun, pwede namin i-disassemble doon. Pati 45 pistol, kayang-kaya. Ma-disassemble dahil maraming nagsusuporta ng mga military units. Pero kawawa yung mga probinsya na wala masyadong mahiraman, hindi masyado na tuunan yung training, talagang kulang ang kalalabasan. But anyway, let's give chance to the AP para kuha na ito. Anong tawag niyan? Redemption. Redemption ito dahil nga nawala ito for 20 years. Nawala ang mandatory ROTC. Redemption time ito ngayon ng military. Paano gawin ito na hindi masayang itong programa na ito?
Sir.
Sir, yes sir.
Last
Before
lang,
Director Sullivan.
bago po sir sa part namin sir, gusto lang po namin ipaano sir na RC training is not a prerequisite for graduation. This is in preparation for our constitutional mandate. Kasi dito tayo nawawala sir. So this is a preparatory. We are trained to be prepared to perform our constitutional duty, not a prerequisite to graduate college. Yun lang po sir.
Yes sir, anyway, naka-align naman yan. Parang short-term objective mo is to graduate college, pero ang long-term objective mo talaga is love of country. Madipinsahan natin itong bansa natin. Yun lang naman talaga ang ating pinaka-ultimate yan na purpose. Thank you, sir. Thank you for reminding us. Director Sullivan, you have the floor.
Salamat po, Sir Chair. At good afternoon po to everyone, Senator Win, Senator Francis, and everybody who is here. This is rather short from the Department of Education, of course, under the leadership of our Vice President and Secretary, Sara Z. Duterte. So, through the LLO and through the Office of the Undersecretary for Legislative Affairs and Partnerships of the Department of Education, we are preparing the final draft of the position paper. It has to be vetted first by our Vice President. But the gist of the message of the Department of Education in reference to the bills on the ROTC is that the ROTC is for higher education. So that is the position of the Department of Education. So the details of this position will be submitted po to you, dear Chairman. Thank you po.
Thank you, Director Sullivan. Salamat. Can we hear from DBM? Online, DBM? Rodel Orantes from DBM.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This
Yes,
is
go ahead.
Perpetual Judea Quezon po of DBM.
DBM pala ito. Okay, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Opo. Good afternoon po. And to those attending this meeting. Thank you, sir, for inviting the DBM po. As for the DBM position paper, we have already submitted the position paper on Senate Bill number 468 to the committee. And basically, sir, the comments stated therein are applicable to the other bills. So, however, for Senate Bill number 1235, mayroon po mga ibang provisions doon na wala po doon sa Senate Bill 468. So, in general, Mr. Chair, the DBM interposes no objection to the objectives of the proposed measure, and as stated po doon sa position paper, the funding requirements of the bills, the same should form part of the budget proposals of the agencies concerned, and the inclusion po in the General Appropriations Act shall be subject to the evaluation by the DBM using the criteria, the parameters, and priorities for the particular budget year and the subsequent authorization of Congress. For Senate Bill number 1235, sir, where Section 9 proposes the creation of Citizen Service Mobilization Commission as an attached agency po sa Office of the President, and on Section 24, which proposes the mobilization centers in each province and city, and on Section 31 on the appropriations provision. Sir, initially, our comments on the provisions of the bill are as follows. For Section 9, sir, since the proposal for the creation of a commission has organizational implications, it is to be noted that the National Government Right-Sizing Program, which is also one of the priorities of the current administration, just like po itong ROTC bill, the intention po of the National Government Right-Sizing Program is it covers all agencies of the executive branch to streamline operations of different agencies and to right-size the organizational structure and manpower complement, among others po. So, to avoid duplication and to ensure sectoral and holistic approach, any functional and structural modifications affecting the government agencies under the executive branch could better be pursued under the National Government Right-Sizing Program. For Section 24 of the bill, which proposes the establishment of mobilization centers in each province and cities, the proposal po is for the local government units to provide an office to handle the administrative aspects of mobilization, and the equipment shall be supplied in close coordination with the AFP, the PNP, and the OCD. In this case, Mr. Chair, we suggest that the bill should be clear as to the administrative expenses to be incurred in the implementation of the Act. Under Section 16 of the Local Government Code po, the promotion of the general welfare of its constituents is essential. So, since the proposal may be considered part of the peace and order efforts of the LGUs, the same may be charged against the LGU's funds. But this should be clear, sir, in the bill. On Section 31, sir, on the appropriations provision, second paragraph of Section 31 provides that an initial funding of 50 million shall be allocated from the President's Social Fund to sustain the operation of the Commission and the implementation of the Act for the first year of its effectivity. And thereafter, the Citizen Service Fund shall be included in the Annual General Appropriations Act. May we mention, sir, that the President's Social Fund is an off-budget po, and it's being administered by the Office of the President. So we suggest, sir, that the comments of the Office of the President is relevant on the bill if the same can be accommodated by the President's Social Fund. So if the Citizen Service Fund will be pursued, may we reiterate po that the same should form part of the budget proposal of the agencies concerned, and the inclusion of which in the GAA shall be subject to the evaluation by the DBM using the criteria, parameters, and priorities for the particular budget year and the subsequent authorization by Congress. So that would be all for now, Mr. Chair, and again, thank you po.
Ma'am, thank you. Matagal ka na ba sa DBM?
34 years in service po sa DBM.
Sa DBM?
Yes, sir.
Uri, maganda at least improving ang DBM ngayon. Dahil pinag-aralan nyo lahat ng provisions ng lahat ng bills na sinabit dito sa committee na ito. Talagang in-scrutinize ninyo. Noon, pag sabi mo DBM, ang sagot ng DBM, subject to availability of funds, sir. Yun lang. At least ngayon, ha? Thank you. Thank you at pinag-aralan nyo ng husto yan. At we appreciate your effort. Maraming salamat, ma'am, ha? Thank you po.
Thank you din po, sir.
Dalawang nasagot ng DBM noon eh. May pundo, walang pundo. Yun lang yung sagot ko. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Salamat. TESDA. Is she around? TESDA? Kay meron pang concluding statement si Senator Robin Gatchalian at saka si Senator Tolentino.
Mr. Chair, good
TESDA?
afternoon po.
Yes, go ahead. You have the floor. Attorney,
Mr. Chair, good afternoon po and everyone. Good afternoon po. This is Attorney Raymart Kiamba po from TESDA. Firstly po, we support um, the measures na magkaroon po ng ROTC sa mga tertiary level. Specifically to TESDA po, we would like to manifest that we limit the application to at least 2-year programs as what Attorney Farolan mentioned a while ago. This is to consider po kasi TESDA has programs po na ilan ay 15 days lang, ilan ay 30 days lang to complete. Other than that, Mr. Chair, we would like to manifest that we'll be submitting our official position on the matter. Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
thank you, Attorney. Maraming salamat sa support ninyo sa mga bills natin dito. Next, PLLO. Sir, you want to say something?
Magandang tanghalian po. I just wish to inform the body that taking the cue from the President after the State of the Nation address, ROTC being one of the priority measures enunciated by the President, the PLO already took the initiative of introducing a process intervention. This is to ensure that we are able to help expedite the legislative process further by submitting a consensus-based unified version from the executive branch so that this will be considered as a unified stand of the executive, particularly the concerned agencies. And at the same time, this is to avert the dissonance that characterized the participation of most agencies in the last Congress. So we speak with one voice in this committee from here on. So we started the process. This is a series of interagency consultation that we sponsored starting in August and lasted until yesterday, actually, particularly on the ROTC bill. And we started by scanning all the pending bills in Congress, in both the House and the Senate, before we came up with a proponent's draft on the bill, which was subjected to further vetting by all the concerned agencies until we came up with a holistic view of the program that we want implemented via legislation. It includes all the observations, the loopholes, the problems encountered in the past in order to come up with an improved program design. So we are, in fact, submitting today to the subcommittee a draft consensus bill for the consideration of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Maraming salamat. Ay, basahin ko lang itong comment ng isang phone-in commenter. Sir, parang kung baguhin ninyo ang title, National Service Training Program from ROTC, parang itong National Citizen Service Training Program, parang NSTP lang rin ang dating, sir. National Service Training Program, NSTP. In both version po, considered optional ang ROTC. Kaya ang dating po, parang NSTP plus lang itong bago. But anyway, we have to inform the public kung anong laman talaga nito para hindi sila ma-mislead pag lumabas sa itong batas na ito. Parang NSTP lang daw rin ang dating. Anyway, pagdedebatihan na pa natin yan. Nasa committee level pa tayo. From here, would like to listen to Senator Win Gatchalian. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I thank all the resource persons for their candidness and also for their opinions and comments. Nakikinig po ako na mabuti and everyone really gave a very good perspective on the proposal, Mr. Chairman. But Mr. Chairman, to enrich our records and also to put in some more detail on the philosophy out of the proposals, I want to ask the official position of DND, because the original, when I had the chance to hear the original versions of ROTC, which was going to be mandatory in senior high school. DND's position was to put it in senior high school, and there were reasons. So I just want to get the official position of DND now. I know there are a lot of changes, a lot of discussions, but just to put it on record, what is the official position of DND as to making RTC mandatory, and why is that the official position now?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Gatchalian, sir. Sir, the official position of the Department of National Defense is to put the ROTC, or the National Citizen Service Training, in the tertiary. The reason for that, sir, is just to put everything into perspective. If you put the ROTC training in the 11 and 12, we are not producing reserve officer. We're not intending to produce reserve officer out of the senior high school. And taking into consideration the nature of the youth today, to make it more palatable or mas maganda para sa kanila, sir, is we prepare, sir, the youth. It is not logical, sir, for the 11s and 12 to introduce them immediately into a purely militaristic kind of subject. It is better to prepare the minds and the emotions of the youth for future training. That's why the 11 and 12 program is intended to create good citizenship and to prepare them for possible military training or military service in the future. Parang ano, sir, bago mo itanim yung punla dapat i-ready mo muna, sir, yung field. So yun yung naging konsepto namin sa DND, na i-ready mo muna yung isip ng mga bata kasi introduce mo sila kagad doon sa medyo harsh na klase ng training. If they are ready, then when they go to the tertiary, they would accept yung rigor of a military training. They will be more prepared. Hindi lang, sir, yung sasabihin na puro lang yan marcha, puro marcha, walang balyan sa amin. So by preparing the 11th and 12th and then making the program mandatory, sir, so first and second year of college, then yung when creating a track for those who want to become officers. So yun, sir, yung naging bagong konsepto natin, sir, sa ROTC program instead of putting it immediately, sir, sa 11 and 12.
If I may, Your Honor, siguro yung nagkakaroon ng change of personnel ang DND. Yung nag-advocate noon ng grades 11 and 12 were defense officials during the previous administration. Ito na ngayon ang stand ng bagong administration. Siguro. And to add, nabanggit mo na rin yung puro marcha, I just want to disabuse the minds of the public pagdating sa marcha-marcha. Kasi para sa kanila, parang useless ang marcha. Alam nyo, everything starts with marching. Pagdating sa military, no military outfit in the whole universe na hindi nag-start sa marching. Standing at attention. Diyan nagsisimula talaga ang pagiging military mo eh. Alam mo, sabihin na marcha-marcha lang yan. Alam nyo, simple obedience to commands ay napalaking bagay. Hindi lang sa isang military organization, kundi sa iyong pagkatao. Marunong ka sumunod ng order ng parents mo, sumunod ng order ng nasa taas. Yun. Pag sabing right face, nag-left face ka, tinamaan ka ng bala, patay ka. Diba? Pag sabing drop, hindi ka nag-drop, ratatat ang kalaban, tinamaan ka. Maneuver left, nag-maneuver right ka, hindi ka sumunod sa command. Simple obedience to commands ay napakalaking bagay sa buhay ng tao, hindi lang buhay ng sundalo, kundi buhay ng tao. Napaka-importante po ng marching. Kaya nga, palagi kong sinasabi yan, huwag niyo sabihin na marcha-marcha lang yan. Ikaw, disiplinado ka bang tao? Sige nga, pamartsahin kita. Kung marunong kang sumunod sa command ko, nakita yan, state of discipline ng tao. Please, continue.
That is exactly, sir, the logic why introductory, sir, yung sa 11 and 12. Everything would be explained. Hindi siya basta i-reintroduce lang siya ng ganon. So that mawala yung, exactly, sir, let us disabuse the mind of the public regarding do sa salitang marcha. Basic, sir, sa military organization ang marches because it develop unity, cohesion, oneness. But it has to be explained, sir, before they go into the actual ROTC program or the citizen soldiers training. Sa 11 and 12, everything will be explained. Ano yung logic, bakit ginagawa ito sa military? At least by the time na i-subject sila dun sa marches, yung sa mga rigors ng military, they understand the reason why we need to do these things. Kesa yung 11 and 12, ano natin kagad na introducer. Kaya nga sa preparatory, sir, yung 11 and 12 for succeeding training, sir. So they'd be prepared to the rigors of the training eventually.
Mr. Chairman, let me join you in that comment, yung marching, no? For me, I'm sure I didn't march as much as you did, no, in your lifetime and compared to my lifetime. But my small, kasi nag-CAT ako, no, my small time that I did marching, for me, marching is a symbol of respecting the chain of command. No? It's a very basic symbol of respecting the chain of command because nakita ko dito sa curriculum, whether it's natural or man-made disasters, you need to know how to listen and how to obey the chain of command. You know? Because if you don't know how to do that, the whole concept will fail, no? Or the whole body will fail. No? So the basic premise of that marching, even though it's menial and very basic, is to learn how to respect the chain of command. No? That's my takeaway from doing CAT when I was younger. No? But yeah.
Alam mo, Your Honor, yung simple, kahit na wala ka sa militarya, kung dito ka sa disaster operation, pagsabi ng leader ninyo sa rescue team, pull! Hindi kayo nagkakasabay, nag-pull ng rope doon sa nirescue ninyo. Nalunod yung nirescue ninyo dahil walang unity of command ka, as you have said. Pull! Dapat sabay ang pag-pull, di ba? Hindi yan military, ha? It's disaster relief operation. Pero very important.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to pursue Yusek, no, yung line of questioning earlier, one of the reasons why you decided to put it at the tertiary level is to produce reserve officers. No? I heard you mention that earlier. No, that is one of the objectives. It's really the objective. After training for 2 years, we have warm bodies that will enter the reserve force. Tama po ba? Okay. And in the proposal, itong NCST, the graduates of NCST will enable them to, they are automatically part of the reserve force. Tama po ba?
Yes, sir.
Yes. But they're not officers.
No, sir. Those who will graduate for the 4-year program will be commissioned in the reserve force with the reserve commission, sir.
Okay. With that in mind, I was looking at the objectives under the proposal, itong bagong batas, no? And ang nakukuha kong direction is to emphasize on disaster preparedness. No? Let me just go to here. Shall provide students with practical and applicable knowledge in skills that are necessary, essential, and ideal for survival, resilience, and providing service in times of local and national emergencies and disasters. But I was going through the intended curriculum, wala akong nakitang military training in this curriculum. Is that intentional?
No, sir. There would be military-centric training, sir. The curriculum would be composed of individual survival and safety, civic duty, sir, community mass emergency and disaster response, and citizen soldier training, sir.
Yun sa dulo.
Yes, sir.
Citizen soldier training. But if
Your Honor, I think Attorney Parolan want to respond.
yeah, go ahead.
Your Honor, just to point out, and in support of the USEC, the military training is already included in the NCST curriculum. It's under the, on offhand, it's purely military skills and competencies are under the citizen soldier training. But there are also topics or subjects which are already covered, which have military application, but are already covered, for example, in the individual emergency and disaster skills, survival and safety skills. Diyan nakalagay yung map reading, land navigation, all of which have military application skills, but also have DRRM application. Land navigation, kasi, for example, nung panahon ng Yolanda, sir, maraming nakaradyo maraming nakakuha ng radyo, but none of them were able to provide kung nasaan sila. Kasi we don't know where we are. So basic land navigation and map reading are already included. Pero hindi siya nilagay, hindi lang siya na-classify under the purely citizen soldier training. But the skills and competencies required for military skills is already covered in those 2 years, Mr. Chair.
Who will be the chairman of this NCST program technical panel?
Actually, it's supposed to be the CHED right now, but in terms of the chairman, walang naka-indicate dyan. So the body would have to choose the chairperson, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
No, the reason why
Similar to a regular technical panel of CHED right now, sir.
sa ibang technical panel, identified ang chairman, di ba? For example, in the marine course, I know it's Marina who chairs the technical panel.
Actually, not exactly, sir, but I will check on
Di ba? Pag medical course, obviously, doctor ang...
May ano, sir, yung sa technical panel natin ngayon, it's appointed by the chairperson of CHED, pero but it must be someone who is well within the expertise of that field, Mr. Chair.
No,
A recognized expert in the field.
All right. So in this case, walang identified.
Dun sa consensus version, walang nakalagay, Mr. Chair.
No, the reason why I ask, because I was going back and forth on this National Citizen Service Training Program, and I'm comparing it to the current Civic Welfare Training Service of the National Service Training Program. Yung nasabi ni Chair kanina, no? Actually, loosely, my interpretation loosely, papasok naman yung disaster preparedness dito sa Civic Welfare Training Service. Loosely, other than that, the only difference is the citizen soldier training. No? And if you remove citizen soldier training, basically, pwede nang pumasok in Civic Welfare Training Service. No? Loosely, loosely. Okay. So, if we are going to bring back ROTC, no? But there is no significant difference between CWTS and this NCST, no, yung bagong proposal, then parang minamandatory lang natin yung CWTS. So I was actually going through the technical panel because sabi ko baka pwedeng the AFP should head that. But in the proposal, hindi rin AFP ang mag-head. So in other words, if AFP will not head the technical panel and the citizen soldier training is only a small component, then actually we're not bringing back ROTC. We're just enhancing itong NSTP. My opinion to, based on my analysis here, no. So parang in short, we're not bringing we're not the intention of bringing back ROTC is not being fulfilled by the proposal. What is being fulfilled by the proposal is just enhancing the current NSTP program and making CWTS mandatory. That's one, Mr. Chair. And then number two, Mr. Chair, I agree with your comment earlier, no, that ROTC is a strong brand, no. And tama si Yusek. In fact, when we were debating this in the basic education, we told ourselves also that it's a misnomer, no. But we actually retained ROTC in basic education because the name ROTC is a very strong brand, no. Alam ng lahat ng tao yan eh. And it symbolizes discipline, patriotism, love for country. No? Yan ang, pag sinabi mong ROTC, yan ang lalabas sa isipan ng tao. And that's actually the direction of ROTC. That's why when Attorney Garcia mentioned earlier that the single most important objective of ROTC is to create warm bodies in the reserve force, better officers at the reserve force. But I'm not getting it here. Parang in the current proposal right now, actually, to be honest, yung citizen soldier training nasa dulo nga eh. No? It's in the dulo. It's not in the main body. Parang incidental na lang siya, Mr. Chair.
Anyway, Your Honor, we have the final say.
Yes, correct.
This committee will have the final say. We will make the necessary corrections. Hindi naman porque sinabit nila
Yes,
yan,
definitely.
we will accept that hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Ang dami namang bills dito na in consideration. So, kung ano maganda dyan, kukunin natin, ano maganda dito,
Yes.
to make up for the substitute bill na ipapasa natin sa plenary. But anyway, Mr. Chairman, before you continue, gusto ko lang rin na yung ROTC is a misnomer. My humble opinion is that Reserve Officer Training Corps, sabi nyo, hindi, we are the training officers. Dahil nga, yung 2-year course na yan, hindi pang officers, pang sa 11 and 12. Yung ROTC is a misnomer dahil nga, hindi naman lahat magiging officer. Pero technically speaking, alam mo, yung mga sarhento, officers din yan sila eh. Non-commissioned officers nga lang. To be technical about it, non-commissioned officers. Itong mga lieutenant to general, they are commissioned officers. So kung sinabi mong reserve officers training corps, pasok pa rin yan kahit na doon sa basic ROTC dahil itong mga sarhento, itong mga 2-year course graduate at 2-year basic ROTC program graduates ay hindi makukommission kundi ma-enlist into the reserve force as privates to sergeants which are non-commissioned officer ranks. So I don't see technically speaking lang na hindi natin tatanggapin dahil hindi sila magiging opisyal. Yun lang, please continue, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and you're an expert in that. No, I will adhere to your wisdom in so far as the officer and the ranking is concerned. You're an expert in that. But my personal take on the proposal, Mr. Chair, tinanggal na nga ho natin yung brand na ROTC, and then linagay pa natin sa dulo yung citizen soldier training. So my personal take and my personal feeling when I read all of this is we're just enhancing NSTP, Mr. Chair. And
Kaya sabi ko kayo na, Your Honor, parang NSTP plus lang itong program na ito. But anyway, that is
Mr. Chair. So I just want to put that on record because our intention really is to revive, ROTC, just like prior to the NSTP period, wherein ROTC was mandatory, no? And everyone who graduates from ROTC enters into the reserve force, no? Whether they're the officer or not, that's another point. But the point there is, pumapasok sila in our reserve force, and that should be very clear in the law. Tama si Ronald, and dito si Ronald. I was looking at the NSTP law, the creation of a National Service Training Program. In this law, there's no mention saan siya ilalagay. Tama po ba? No? Wala. So it was created, but nobody heads it. No? But in the lower now, actually, we're putting it under OCD. I read here. But in my opinion, this National Service Training Program is a failed program because under the law it was created, but nobody knows kung saan siya magre-report. No? So, ang punto ko lang doon, ito, Mr. Chair, is I think we're all in unison that ROTC should be revived. No? And the concept, the pure concept of ROTC should be embedded in the law, which is to feed into our reserve officers, reserve force to create more warm bodies. And my point here, Mr. Chair, is while the disaster management is an important skill in knowledge, but it should be part and parcel of the military training. No? Because the military training is the unique feature of ROTC. No? And we just have to admit the military training is what gives discipline, what gives love of country, what gives patriotism. No? That's what in my proposal, that's what we want to make it more pronounced. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Honor. Anyway, alam naman natin, lahat ng military trainings, whether it is in the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, ay may component talaga yan ng disaster management, disaster rescue and relief operations. Kompleto po yan. Yung mga basic life support, pinaka-basic yan sa training ng military. I can see the wisdom why kailangan pa nating ihiwalay itong dalawa na ito. Dati naman itong components talaga ng military training, itong mga disaster rescue operations, disaster management. Anyway,
Mr. Chair.
you done? Yes, General Garcia, sir.
Gusto ko lang pong linawin yung military courses po natin kasi, like ROTC, merong basic, merong advanced. So, hindi po misnomer yung ROTC kung ilalagay mo sa senior high. Actually, you're saving time and you're already preparing the youth to their constitutional duty. They take the basic course of ROTC during senior high. They take in advance as an optional course if they want to pursue it. Pero nagawa mo na yung principal training mo, you already have basic military training very early on without any delay. So, tuloy-tuloy lang po ang military training mo mula sa pagkabata mo, Cub Scout, Boy Scout, CAT in junior high school, that is the preparation. Actually, doon wala namang shocking, dinaanan po natin lahat yan, nag-PMT tayo. After PMT, we did ROTC. Wala namang culture shock na nangyari sa atin. As a matter of fact, napakarami sa ating officers ngayon are product of ROTC who are with the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Bakit breaking to them softly pa yung ginagawa natin? We're actually delaying the kids. We're delaying their training when we can already give it to them in senior high. Pagdating sa college optional, yun na lang ang babaguhin natin, yung curriculum nung senior high, kung to qualify them for commission already. Hindi yung may separate course ka pa ng ROTC na 4-year course para magkaroon ka ng officer sa reserve at saka sa regular. Existing foundation, existing institutions, existing po ang Boy Scout. Doon natin turuan ng love of country, doon natin turuan ng patriotism, ng integrity, ng honesty. Doon natin turuan habang lumalaki po, tinuturuan natin ng skills. Hanggang sa dumating sa senior high, dati naman po ang ROTC, basic ROTC, nasa lugar ng senior high ngayon.
Ito sir, just to inform you,
yes sir,
ganito talaga yan, yung pinakaunang proposal namin. Senator Tolentino, Senator Win Gatchalian, ako, ang mga bills namin ay grades 11 to 12. Noon pa yan, panahon pa ni President Duterte. Ito ngayon, nagbago lang ito dahil nga nag-usap yung CHED, nag-usap yung DepEd, pati yung AFP, nag-usap. Malaking portion kasi, malaking consideration kasi doon yung budgetary requirements. Sa ngayon kasi, yung DepEd, wala pa silang existing facilities para sa ROTC. Pero ngayon, meron na ang higher education, ang mga colleges, meron na silang existing facilities ng ROTC. At malaking consideration talaga yung budget. Kaya nga sabi ko sa iyo, break it to them gently. muna kasi masyak kaagad yung gobyerno sa gagastusin dito. Basta sir, ang importante, maibalik mo ng ROTC. Yan ang importante ang gusto natin. Maibalik mo na ito, then bahala na later kung gusto nating i-amend. Pag marami ng pera ang gobyerno, i-amend natin sa grades 11 to 12. Kasi maraming rason din ang DepEd. Bakit parang nag-give up ang DepEd? Nung una, ang DepEd gustong-gusto nila grades 11 and 12. Pero during in the course of their analysis, nakita lang mas maganda nga pala CHED ang maghawak nito dahil existing na yung facilities nila. So doon natin ilagay. But anyway, sir, alam ko yung gusto mo.
Sir, tama po yung...
Pareho tayo ng gusto. Pero...
Tama po yung sinabi nyo.
Yeah.
Just for the record lang po, our OTC will ultimately, in the long run, be cheaper to do right away. Because when we finally decide to implement RA 7077, yung pong compulsory citizens military training, which is the mandate of the Constitution, it will become more expensive for us. Kasi pag-uusapan na natin doon, yung mga hindi nag-ROTC na nagtatrabaho sa mga opisina na, kasi 18 to 25 years old po yun. So pag nag-register sila at tinawag sila, sweldo po nila pag-uusapan pa natin. Pero kung tatapusin na po natin sa high school yung kanilang duty to train, equivalent ng CCMT po yung ROTC, then we are done with these boys. Then we can tackle eventually.
We'll take in.
Opo, sir.
Nakuha ko yung gusto mo, sir. Talagang pagkaganda yan. But for now, yun nga, na-limit mo natin sa college dahil nga yung budget consideration, napakalaki po. So, dandahanin lang natin ito. Sir, if I may, pagbigyan mo natin si Dr. Raymond Arcega, Sir, Commission on Accreditation for Local Colleges and Universities. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. Again, I'm the president of Local Colleges and Universities of Commission for Accreditation, and under our care is about 130 plus LCUs, and I'm also appearing as the chairman of the National Network of Quality Assurance Agencies, accrediting both SUC and LUCs. Briefly, Mr. Chair, we're of course in favor of the implementation of the program. This is my 4th time attending in the Philippine Senate, and conceptually, we interpose no objection. In fact, in the previous bills presented, the suggestion is mandatory. Again, we interpose no objection because really the problem of the Filipino youth
Hindi
today...
pa nagbago ha, mandatory pa rin.
Yes, Filipino youth really is discipline, love of country, and patriotism. Of course, in the past implementation, I'm part of it when I took my ROTC and CAT. There are some items, I guess, that we have to fix, but the outcome of ROTC is definitely beneficial to all Filipinos, specifically those that are in high school and college. So we also are in favor of bringing it down to 11 and 12 because 11 and 12 are practically college during our generation. 11 and 12 is what we know as first and second year in college. And you know, discipline, patriotism, love of countries has already been compromised that early. So we interpose an objection. Only, Senator, the time that I sat here, we proposed that the implementation be not purely be military, but a combination of the civilian and military, particularly the curriculum. In the past proposals, I've seen the structure proposed that there will be some deputies and all, combination of civilian and military. But we should not deny ourselves of a strategy that would definitely enhance young's commitment to love their country. It can be gleaned in all the classrooms right now. Now, towards the end of my statement, Senator, it's about the budget. I hope the implementing body will find ways on how we can, even without putting the budget as a block to implement the same. Because if it will be implemented with the military personnel and organization, you might have the facilities and equipments already. It's all about the faculty to handle the same. But again, I don't know how many years we've been talking this, but Senator, the nation cannot wait anymore. With the level of discipline and with the level of patriotism, yung simple lang pagtatapon ng basura, pagtawid sa tamang lugar, pagrespeto sa mga nakakataas, paggalang sa mga guro. These are all teachings we've got the time that we were at ROTC and CAT. No? So we don't want to deny the incoming generation of the opportunity also to become like us. That while we say something against the government, while we say something against our superiors, we still kept that respect over these people supervising us. So again, Mr. Chair, in summary, we interpose an objection for mandatory implementation, provided the curriculum will be designed combined by the civilian and the military, and so with the composition of the officials who will implement the same. The nation needs this so urgently. To be able to see everyone developing, as I heard from Senator Gatchalian, that value of discipline, patriotism, and love of country. And the faculty and teachers cannot deny that this happens to be a problem across all educational institutions. So 11 and 12, I guess it should be considered because they're practically first and second year in college before. And then as to the budget, I hope we'd be able to identify the soonest where we can have it or maximize the budget that we have right now, so as not to prolong the implementation of the same. Thank you, Your Honors.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Arsiga. Maraming salamat. Alam mo, yung sinabi mo ngayon, yung mga kulang sa disiplina, ito pagbaba namin sa aeroplano kahapon, di ba, merong pag Cebu Pacific ka, sasalubungin ka ng shuttle bus doon sa baba ng hagdan. Tapos ihatid ka, isa-shuttle ka. Pagpasok mo doon sa bus, may sumakay na mga buntis, may sumakay na matatanda. Makita mo yung mga lalaki na malalakas, ang babata pa. Nandoon lang, nakayuko, nagsigi-tiks-tiks, kunyari, walang nakikita. Gusto ko na sampalin yung ulo ba na, uy, yung matanda, tumayo ka pa, may matanda, may bata, may babae. Wala na, hindi na natuturo sa kabataan natin ngayon na yung priority for the weaker sex and all the people, dapat sila pagbigyan palagi ng priority. Ayaw pansinin. 25 years old na ang laki ng katawan, nakaupo lang, hindi pinapansin. Ang matanda, hirap na hirap, di ba? Yung sasakay ka sa bus sa shuttle bus ng Cebu Pacific, ganun-ganun ka kasi may hawak ka doon sa ganun-ganun. Pag mag-break bigla, ganun yung matanda. Sub-sub. Ako na lang tumayo, pinaupo ko yung matanda. Tapos, binulungan ng security ko yung malaking mama doon na bata pa. Brad, hindi ka na konsensya doon sa matanda na hindi mo pinaupo? Pareho lang kami nagbayad ng ticket. Isipin mo. Kung hindi ako nakapigil, sinuntok ko na yung bata na yun. Pero yun talaga, importante, disiplina ng kabataan.
Mr. Chair, just to join in the conversation, I actually conducted a focus group on ROTC. And hindi ko lang dala yung report, but just to share with the committee in line with what the chairman said, malaking suporta ng taong bayan sa ROTC. And pag tinanong mo sila kung bakit, the top 3 answers will be number 1, discipline. Number 2, physical activity. Because nga, ang bata ngayon nakadikit na sa phone . And number 3 is patriotism. And most of these respondents are people like us who went through either CAT or ROTC. But yung mundo ngayon, iba na because ang bata nakadikit ngayon sa cellphone . And the lack of physical activity is what drives the support of our constituency for ROTC. And that's in line with the marching. Actually, marching might be, to some, might be katawa-tawa, but gusto nila yan because it's a symbol of, it's also a physical activity. People are out marching, doing something, moving around, and that our constituents like that, as opposed to yun nga, parating naka-cellphone or nagi-games. Just to share with the body.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I just would like to strike out from the record yung sinabi kong weaker sex. Baka mamaya magalit sa akin yung mga babae. Gender equality tayo. Instead of weaker sex, sabihin mo babae or female. Para magalit sa akin yung mga anak ko na babae. Pasensya ka na, sorry. Secretariat, Tagalin yun from the records. Y- 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 okay lang, pagbigyan natin si Ronald. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Yusek Cordema.
Thank you, sir. Sir, again, as I've said, we just gathered all the ROTC commanders, cadet officers from different universities, together with the PMA cadets, PNPA, PMMA, and also the Sangguniang Kabataan presidents. And Senator Tolentino was our guest there. And nung una, we were trying to integrate them para makita naman ng mga SK kung ano yung ginagawa ng mga kadete ng ROTC at PMA. Sabi nila, yung iba sa kanila baka hindi nila kaya yung subjects na napapakita nung sa ROTC at sa PMA. Pero after the activity, the SK leaders, the leaders of all the youth in every province and city, talagang nag-enjoy sila. And nagtatanong sila, bakit walang ganon? Sabi ko, kasi hindi nyo kasi inabutan yung mandatory ROTC. And just to show you for a minute, kindly play. These are all the SK leaders of our country and they enjoyed some of the subjects being shown to them. Ayan, mga SK leaders yan, puro bukal at konsehal po yan ng ating bansa.
Pwedeng mahaba pa yan, mahaba pa? I-post muna natin. I-post muna natin dahil babalik si Senator Tolentino sa CA. Pakinggan muna natin yung kanyang parting statement.
Video rin ako eh. Video rin ako. Patungan yung video. Saglit lang, Ronald, kasi I have to vote during the plenary doon sa confirmation ni Secretary Ople and the COA chairman. So, papasalamat ako kay Attorney Estrada. I asked him to stay para mapakinggan. 5 minutes lang ako. Pakinggan, tingnan nga natin itong video ko. It has something to do with what the lower house will decide today. What I have here is the committee report. Eventually this afternoon, the House of Representatives will vote to naturalize one of the best imports in the Philippines sa Ginebra, si Justin Brownlee. Magiging Pilipino. Tumaan to sa Senate hearing. Listen to this. And it will answer the question of General Calonzo. Paki-play nga. Lakasan natin.
Constitution, and I quote, the prime duty of government is to serve and protect the people. The government may call upon the people to defend the state, and in the fulfillment thereof, all citizens may be required under conditions provided by law to render personal, military, or civil service. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to defend the Philippines? Are you willing to participate in any disaster, calamity, rescue operations during typhoon season? Okay. Your answer is opo. Opo. So that means you're willing to join the Philippine Army Reserve Force. Thank you, Mr. Brownlee. I have no further questions.
Ano po yan? He's on the brink of being a Filipino citizen, willing to join the Philippine Army Reserve. 6'5", 6'6". Kung meron tayong ibang tao na dugong banyaga tapos gusto maging Pilipino, gusto maging bahagi ng sandatahang lakas, dapat siguro yung Pilipino ganun din. Yung mga kabataan natin na talagang sinilang dito na hindi na kailangan i-naturalize, ay maging handa at sagutin yung tanong ni General Calonzo kanina, yung preparedness, willingness to serve, etc., etc. That answers that. But before I leave, I have two good news. I would, with the permission of the chairman and the other members of this committee, hindi pa nyo ho alam lahat ito. Itong sasabihin ko, it will probably be an eye-opener for those serving in CHED, kasama yung mga private and public universities and colleges. This will be an eye-opener for all of you. Matagal ko na pong binubuno ito. Sikreto lang. Buhay po ang ROTC. Buhay po ang ROTC. In fact, I've done a lot of spade work. Tahimik lang. Ang dami kong tinrabaho. I would like to have a 3-minute report coming from Attorney Spocky Farulan. Any update or even what was the latest insofar as the meetings we undertook, any development? This has something to do with what you will hear for the first time. I envision for next year a Philippine ROTC Games. Attorney Farulan, you have 2 minutes. If you can update and report to this committee. This is related, this is not related, this is relevant, this is not relevant, this is ROTC, which will happen next year. And next year will be the revitalization of the ROTC program in a different pathway, in a different manner. Go ahead, Attorney Farulan.
With the Office of with your permission, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
with the leadership of the Office of Senator Tolentino, the Commission on Higher Education, as well as the different branches of the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the DND, and the Philippine Sports Commission has been working on a program to be known as the ROTC Games or ROTC Olympics. We still have to finalize it, which would develop a program that would tap the assets and the youth in the ROTC human resource right now, our ROTC cadets, and provide for them a venue where we can identify them, who among them are the best in the sports. This is going to be a platform for identifying talents in sports, and this will also be a platform for the different ROTC units to showcase their skills and at the same time show unity and show how the ROTC program is in existence right now, Mr. Chair. The good senator, our Senator Tolentino, has also wanted to make sure that this program imbibes even should showcase the skills that they've learned and translated into sports, which could also be translatable into defending our country, defending against threats, and also showcasing the skills that ROTC cadets that we have right now are doing. And even without a law, even without an ROTC strengthening law being passed, that what we have right now with that ROTC games, ROTC Olympics, we can create that pool of young men and women who can actually defend our country and even be the platform for them to showcase our sports talents abroad, locally and abroad, Mr. Chair. I hope that gave justice to the program.
Attorney Farulan, well said. General Landoni, J9, can you refresh my memory as well as all those present here what transpired during our several meetings involving the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, as per instruction of the Secretary of National Defense. J9, you have the floor.
But before you have the floor, siguro tawagin niyo yung ROTC Olympics at the same time Brigadier General Francis Tolentino Philippine Army Cup. Ha? Yung
Sir,
Philippine
thank you, sir.
Brigadier General Tolentino Cup.
What is being envisioned here is greater than the Palarong Pambansa. This is not going to be a glorified sports fest or intramurals. We will break Philippine records. We will break Philippine records. This will be a pool of ROTC athletes from where the Southeast Asian Games athletes will be selected from. including the Asian Games. Ang nangyayari po ganito, huwag magagalit. Pag nanalo na si Heidelin Diaz, oh, Philippine Air Force ka na, Doning. Pag nanalo na si Yumer Marcial, Philippine Air Force, pareho pala yun. Pag nanalo si Carlo Paalam, o Coast Guard ka. Pag nanalo si Nesty Pitesio, Coast Guard ka o Philippine Navy. They are being recognized after garnering a medal or an honor for the country. Now we reverse that. Gagawin natin, yun na yung pool, yung ROTC cadets. Now we reverse also the situation wherein the varsity players are exempted from ROTC. Ito yung mga puging, ayaw maglaro, exempted sa kasi NCAA player, UAAP player. Hindi ka makakasama sa ROTC games kung kahit varsity player ka, kung hindi ka maging ROTC cadet. We reverse the psychological mind of an athlete that he is supposed to be an elite within the academic community. You are part of the ROTC because you have to serve. Ito yung napag-usap. Mahaba na hong pag-uusap to without your knowledge. Gerald Aldoni, you have the floor. Huwag mo na sabihin na we will start with the silent drill competition. We will start with the drum and bugle competition, and we will culminate with the Miss Philippines ROTC 2023. Kompleto na ho ito. Tapos na to.
Yeah, you have the floor.
You have the floor.
Kompleto.
Thank you, sir. From the AFP perspective, sir, we already talk. Marami pong, ang concept naman talaga, sir, this will become nationwide. And then meron na selection process and then competition from province na yung lowest, sir, na mag-pool ng ROTC up to the national. So this is a very massive activity, sir. And as of now, sir, ang concept ay napag-usapan na with CHED and all the other, pati ang Philippine Sports Commission, sinama po ni Senator Tolentino para mabigyan po ng magandang concept kung paano because this is the first time, sir, na gagawin. Kumbaga, this is a novel project of the Senator. So kailangan po ng pag-usapan.
This committee, not just me.
Hindi, yung
Project
kayong
natin
brainchild,
lahat.
sir, eh. So in the end, sir, ang latest na pagkaalam po namin, sir, nandun na na-consider yata siya for budget, sir, na because this is over and above sa budget po ng AFP on the Reserve Force Development.
GHQ will implement.
Yes, sir. Ano ito, sir? Parang interagency collaboration din ito kasi hindi ito purely AFP. Nandito yung PSC, nandyan din yung CHED na kasi ROTC po, sir. And then hopefully, sir, as envisioned by the good senator, maganda yung outcome. And it's a good, ano din, sir, come on, na bago ma-implement yung itong bill, sir, pag napasa na, meron na po nakikita sila na ay may mga ganun pala sa ROTC. So yun na po, sir, yung from the
Sir,
GNA.
if I may add, it will be Army ROTC versus Air Force ROTC versus Navy ROTC, and the winners will play exhibition games against the Philippine Military Academy, PNPA, and PMMA. So this will happen before the typhoon season. That's why we invite all of you to help us and support this program. Ito talaga yung pagsisimula habang binabalangkas pa ho yung mga batas na ating pinag-uusapan. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman, Senator Gatchalian. I rest my case. I have to transfer to another hearing. Salamat po at mananghalian na kayo.
Thank you, Your Honor, Senator Tolentino. Meron pa bang hindi nakapagsalita? Ano bang gustong sasabihin? Senator Win, okay ka na?
Mr. Chair, I know that we will be, but my comment, generally on the bill. This is the first time I saw the bill, and my general comment, Mr. Chair, is let's make ROTC pronounced in the law. No, that is my general comment here, because ROTC, aside from being a strong brand, it's a symbol of discipline. No. And if we will put another brand such as the National Citizens Service Training, NCST, yung tao hindi ho ma-appreciate na ROTC ho to eh. No?
Most of them are nodding their heads, Mr. Chair.
So
I
know
agree
that,
with you.
yeah, we will have a technical working group later on. Of course, the chairman will spearhead that, and we'll make certain proposals also. And I hope that the consensus team, no, alam po kayo nag-ano, will take that into consideration, no? Because branding is also important. You have to remember, we're bringing back something from almost the dead, no? So it's important that we have a strong brand so that people will appreciate and we will have the support of the general public. And before we end, Mr. Chair, I had an opportunity to visit Singapore and Finland. Both the countries have mandatory conscription, no, at the age of 18. Wala hong pinipili doon. In Finland, if you reach the age of 18, everyone should undergo 1-year military training. Singapore, it's the same thing. And if you don't, kulong. No? Very strict sila doon. And in Singapore, when I visited the DND equivalent in Singapore, they were very passionate. I can feel the passion in their national service. Oh? They call it national service. And they were telling me that, of course, some advocates will try to remove the mandatory feature of the national service, but the public, almost all public, 90% of their constituents support this program. And because of that, I just want to share a slide, Mr. Chair, a favorite quote of mine when I was doing research on ROTC. And this is from Lee Kuan Yew. And this is in line with what Attorney Garcia mentioned. No? In his quote, this is in the discussion of their national service, the best way to deter any Malaysian plan to regain control of Singapore. Of course, wala nang away between Malaysia and Singapore, no? But this is during those time, was their knowledge that even if they could subdue our armed forces, they would have to keep down a whole people well-trained in the use of arms and explosive. Punto dito, lahat sa Singapore trained. Lahat sa Singapore ready. Lahat sa Singapore ready tumulong. No? That is the philosophy. Of course, the Malaysian-Singapore issue, wala na ho yan. But the philosophy of training the entire constituency to be ready, to defend their country, whether natural or man-made, that is the philosophy why Singapore retained its national service after many, many years, even through criticisms, even through periods of challenge, but they remained it to date. So that's it, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Gatchalian. You encapsulate everything that we have been talking here for the last how many hours? Thank you. 4 hours. Maraming salamat. I've been to Israel din for a couple of times. Siguro 6 times ako pabalik-balik sa Israel through the invitation of the Mossad. And kita mo talaga doon yung mga babae. Ang babae na nagtitraining. Walang pakialam kung maganda ka o pangit ka, pero maganda man lahat ng babae doon, di ba? Walang pakialam. Basta talagang mandatory nagtitraining sila. Nandoon sa boundary between yung pinaglalabanan ng Lebanese, ano yung kuwan ng Lebanon? Ano yung grupo ng Lebanon? Hamas, Hezbollah. Nandun Hezbollah sa kabilang side, nagkakamayan na sila. Pero yung babae, hinahamon pa yung, sige, tawid kayo dito. Ganun po yung, ganun po yung conscription nila. Walang pili. So sana tayo dito, hindi naman conscription itong habol natin. Simpleng mandatory ROTC lang ito. One Saturday per week lang ito, di ba? 1 day per week. Sana mapagbigyan natin ang ating mahal na bayan na mapanatag siya na kung may mangyayari man, meron siyang mga anak na talagang willing to die for this motherland. Lahat naman tayo Pilipino, duty natin yan to defend this country. With or without that Constitution. Di ba? Kahit na hindi mo isipin yung Constitution, isipin mo lang yung pagka-Pilipino mo. Sino magdidepensya sa Pilipinas kundi Pilipino? Di ba? Moral duty natin yan. Regardless of whether it is a constitutional duty or legal obligation or what, it is your moral obligation being a Filipino to defend your homeland. Yun lang naman. Hindi lang against intrusion, kundi against all forms of calamities. Whether man-made or natural calamities, nandyan tayo para tumulong sa ating kapwa. So from here, I think we have taken a lot of discussions already, and from here, I think we will create a technical working group para ma-fine-tune natin ito lahat. And I hope lahat kayong ahensya na andito, pati yung ating mga stakeholders na non-government agencies, please join us in the technical working group para po maka-come up tayo ng piece of legislation that we can be truly proud of. Sana samahan nyo kami dito. So, Comsec, suspend or adjourn? Suspend ba? Okay, may working group pa tayo. So from here, wala na magsalita, sir, no? Okay na tayo. Again, from the bottom of my heart, maraming salamat sa inyong pagdating dito. Lalong-lalo na itong mga retired natin ng mga general, kahit na mahirap na bumangon sa umaga, pero andito pa rin sila para sumali sa discussion. Thank you, sir. Maraming salamat sa inyo and sa lahat. Thank you again. The hearing is suspended. Salamat.